Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is a very special guest, Eric Hunley. How's it going, man?
Hey, man. What's up?
Oh, not much. Just sitting here in my new censored world of everything being deleted and destroyed because Democrats and their donors don't like them, I guess.
Oh, dude, I'm looking at your chat, and I guess, I'm actually closer to being an actual boomer than you are. So is that why we're on time? Everybody's saying on time, dude. What's up with that?
You're, yeah, you are shockingly helpful as a guest. You were there, ready to go. Your audio worked, and I was able to start right away. So normally when I have a guest, I'm a few minutes late for whatever reason. Always my fault and never the guest's.
Gotcha. Roger that. Been there, dude.
But yeah, so yeah, you've been there because I think I've been on your show.
Oh, no, you were actually on time, I think.
Yeah,
once.
I'm just kidding.
Dial it in twice.
But anyway, thank you for coming on my show. I had a blast on your show. Yeah, twice, right? Because there was the
Oh, yeah.
There was our chat.
Everything's running.
Yeah. There was our chat that we did, and then there was the panel chat on 2:30, which...
Yeah, and I tried to get you back on Saturday, but you were busy, and maybe we could talk some of that here about, just the world on fire. I know you've already talked about it, but, Parler and all that crap.
There's more to talk about. There always is.
Yeah.
we can certainly do that. And it seems like such a fun little time ago when we were concerned about what they would do to 2:30 and how that would impact things. But
yeah, it's 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the timing on that show was just spot on.
Yeah.
It's like we do the show and Trump's off.
Well, there was that, and then there was I covered the second 2:30 hearing they did in the Senate, which had really good moments from several Republican senators kind of holding Jack and Zuckerberg to the fire. And that was before all the election stuff was really in full swing. And so it was like, here we are thinking that there's going to be congressional reform to 2:30 of some way. They're talking about policy changes. Trump is on board with it. And it's like, okay, maybe something will happen. And now I'm like, there's no way. There's no way they're going to touch it.
Cruz and Holly, the two senators that they're trying to exile from the Senate. Honestly, I looked at those and it was really fun theater to watch. Oh, right. Look, Jack looks like a moron. Jack is getting grilled. Oh, wow, nothing's happening. Great, Ted. That's nice. All you're doing is entertaining the plebes, but you're not actually doing anything. How about some teeth?
I think they were hoping that Trump's second term would carry in some momentum on 2:30. And then, of course, that has been shattered. And now, incidentally, Cruz and Holly are pariahs of the Senate. And there's at least one Democrat suggesting that maybe they should be removed under the 14th Amendment for their insurrection.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, God.
Well, honestly, you give them images to play with. What do you want?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I want. That's the thing. No, I do. It's simple. I just want to sit on the internet and make jokes without worrying about being banned for saying the wrong thing. That's what I want.
Well, dude, we're in such bad shape that I have a friend who works in intelligence who's recommending people to get on the Russian version of Facebook for free speech. Yeah. Now, you can't get any further past irony than that, okay?
No.
And I don't remember what it's called, but I was like, okay, dude, you're a good friend. I trust you. You're a great guy, but I just cannot get on a Russian social network as a way to have free speech. I just can't do that. I mean, I've had a KGB spy on my show, for God's sake. I am old enough that I did live through the Cold War. I
Eh,
remember
It
that,
is
so
okay.
it's
That's all in the past. Now we are good.
oh
It is
yeah,
fine. Comrade, come on, platform. We won't throw you
yeah,
off, if you know what I mean. Unless you're
yeah.
journalists.
Well, there are some who probably no. I won't say that. We want to keep this monetized.
Yeah. Don't worry, it won't be by the end. It won't be. Say, speaking of that, are you going to be imbibing any alcoholic beverages tonight?
Yes, because I'm with a brain. I am having we call a smart mouth.
Smart
It
mouth.
is yes, it is the Notch 9 double India or double IPA.
Okay. That sounds like a beer. I don't have much experience. I know I don't like hops.
That's cool. Well, I'm a lightweight dude, so you go for the real alcohol, and I'm the wimp.
Yeah, I'm going to drink Amroot single malt peated Indian whiskey. So
There you go.
this is high octane. I only have a little bit left, which is sad because I don't know where to get this.
Somehow I think I see other bottlenecks behind you that you'd be okay.
Oh yeah. No, but I don't know where to get this. So when this bottle's gone, because
I
I
don't know.
like this stuff. This stuff is fantastic. But
Well, that's why you have a chat. Go to the guest.
someone in the chat sent me this bottle, and
Well, hopefully they're here.
yeah.
Just by
just-
the way,
Just tell me where you got it. That's what I need. I mean, I don't need a charity bottle. I'm happy to buy my own. I just don't know where to get one in my area. So, yeah, but so we're here, yeah, just to have a general talk about this stuff. You suggested talking about where we go from here. Like what is kind of the path
Sure.
forward as a country, I guess, as people, as individuals. There's are you familiar with Bob McKee?
I've heard the name. I'm not going to say I know who the hell.
Okay, he wrote a book called Story. Did you see the movie Adaptation with Nicolas Cage?
You're going to shame me by the minute as we go. I see. No, I
No,
haven't.
no, it's
But Nick Cage has been in a lot of movies, so sorry.
right. It's kind of an obscure film, but Adaptation is a fantastic movie, which is shocking for
Okay.
having Nick Cage in it. But
Well, they had Face Off.
I was sitting with my buddy Drexel, and we're scrolling through movies to watch, and noticing like that Nick Cage keeps showing up in like bargain bin movies, just endless with absolute nobodies. And it's like, you're Nick Cage. Why are you in these movies with
He
nobody
and
else?
Wesley Snipes had tax problems. Wesley Snipes hired Robert Barnes, and Nick Cage makes shitty movies. They both have their ways to deal with it.
So anyway, Adaptation, it's very, very good in general. And I believe it was an original screenplay, but it's an adaptation of the book Story by Robert McKee, which is weird because that's not a story. It's a book about how you tell stories. Anyway, I'm digressing way too far. Basically, the premise that he covers in effective storytelling is you have multiple spheres of contact and conflict in a story. So you have an interpersonal conflict. You have an inner conflict, an interpersonal conflict, a community conflict, and then eventually you build up to societal or global levels of conflict. And your story should be overlapping in several of these spheres because that rounds out and breathes life into the world that you're creating. So
How does that map to the hero's journey, I wonder?
I have no idea. Because
sorry.
No, it's okay because I'm just focused on this point. So, but we can talk about that. But yeah, so the idea that I was having for our chat is where do we go as individuals? Where do we go in our communities? Where do we go in our states and country? Like let's bound out the spheres as things are going in some ways to hell and in some ways in very interesting directions. That's my thought for the chat tonight. I don't know if that's too heady.
Well, no, I think that's brilliant. I'm with a brilliant mind. What do I want?
Well, and I'm hoping the chat will help round us out with some levity too, because they're good at that. But
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, well, let's talk about the hero's journey though that you brought up. So I've heard the phrase. I think I know what it means, but what do you What do you? What is the interpretation you're going with?
Very loosely done. Star Wars was created with Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero's Journey, on set.
Oh, okay.
And you have the baseline hero who is reluctant, life sucks everywhere, is in the middle of nowhere. He kind of finds a guide, if you will. And this is very loose because I read some of the stuff and then I kind of get bored and I move on to other behavioral things.
I know how that goes.
There you go. Essentially, like, you take Luke and he's a nobody, he's in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't feel like doing anything, and then everything is kind of put upon him, and then he has to deal with the conflict moving forward. Then he's going to have help, and that help is like Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Sure.
It's like a guide. And then you have like the heroes, and on down the line all the way to when the darkest is before dawn at the third act. Alderaan gets blown up, and then finally we come in and we blow up the Death Star. That is an extreme thumbnail version of it. But
Okay.
you will see this, you'll see it over and over and over and over in just about any cinematic or any story type of a reference.
Right. So
that
you've got
basic pattern.
a reluctant hero, the burdens of something are thrust upon him and they have to deal with it. And the real journey were the friends they made along the way. Or whatever.
Right. And it's kind of like the penultimate episode is always the most climactic moment.
Right.
Whenever you're looking at a series or whatever, it's like not the last episode, the one right before is the I don't know if you swear or not, but the holy shit episode.
Oh, I have been known to use profanity from time to time. So,
okay, I guess that.
And it's perfectly okay here, by the way. So that is fine.
Cool.
Yeah, no, you're right. But what's interesting is Lord of the Rings, for example, like the climatic moment happens in the third movie and in the third book. The second book is a drag, actually.
Sure.
And they had to borrow from the third book into the second book for the movies because they're like, what are we going to do for this movie? It's meant because Tolkien was writing a slog. He wanted you to feel like how rough it was for Frodo to go across, the entirety of Middle Earth and be alone and, bedangered by every single thing.
Back in the day when they punished the reader so they could feel the pain. I personally don't subscribe to that model. And yes, Lord of the Rings is a freaking slog.
It is. It's tough. That second book, man, it's like, this is hard. And that's Atlas Shrugged can be a slog too. And
Ayn Rand, was it Ayn Rand?
Yeah.
And she does not. She thinks of humans like robots that she moves around. So the little I've read of it is like, no wonder you don't care about these people. They're caricatures. She sucks. She's not a good writer. She's like writing out a thesis and then just slapping characters into place to do it.
Mm-hmm. And yet I've read it twice.
Terry Goodkind. I think it's Terry Goodkind did a good job with that. God, I don't remember which book. It's like a few books into a series, but he did a really good job. If you're not into collectivism, there was a whole book on somebody who went into the society and dug into it. And I thought that it was more entertaining. He's still a little bit on the spectrum-y side, if you will, but it was at least more entertaining, and there's a Scotia humanity there.
You know what I will say, though? I have read, like I said, I've read Atlas Shrugged twice. Fountainhead is a better Fountainhead's a better written book. Atlas Shrugged is a real drag for about 250 pages, but then it does actually pick up quite well.
Sword of Truth. See, your chat came through.
What was that?
The Sword of Truth series. Terry Goodkind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry. I haven't got through the whole series, by the way. I got through like a few books, got through the collectivism, and then I just started to get bored too. But
I haven't read any of them, so that's what you get, Terry Goodkind. You let me down.
So there.
But but yeah, so the hero's journey, kind of going back to that, it's an interesting concept, and you do see it. It's kind of the model for blockbuster movies and adventure movies and stuff. Although what I've been finding lately, and this is kind of just bouncing topics, but that's okay, is the Marvel stuff that I like is not their high adventure stuff, but it's their westerns. And I'll use as examples of westerns.
Star Wars is a space western.
Kind of. I would say though,
Okay.
you got Logan, and you've got the Punisher series, and the Punisher series is really done as well as a western, in my opinion. You've got it's like a western noir, I guess, but Punisher is very much an outside hero, especially in the second season when he has tried to, he is no longer Frank Castle. He's just a guy, and he's kind of roaming the country, and he gets dragged into this thing. But he's very much an outside hero, and the Western sort of themes. It's slow, it's gritty, it's really good, and I'm liking Marvel doing that because I think the adventure, high action sort of stuff they've been doing, and there's tons of action in Punisher, but the high action stuff is getting a little played out with their major movies, and I enjoy the more careful, I guess, writing and exploration of characters that's coming with Punisher and Logan. But
well, ironically, you brought up westerns, right?
Yeah.
Well, as a kid, my father was deep into country and western music, and he loved westerns. And if you recall, in the 60s and 70s, westerns were like comic book movies of now. So you're right. Marvel's following the path of the Western. They're going to make so much crap, and I'm getting so sick of a lot of it that it is getting played out. But it's cool that maybe they're finding a little heart with a Western angle or whatever. But dude, it's exhausting. I just don't care. And now it's not Marvel's DC, I know that, but freaking Wonder Woman 1984 was just a pile of dreck.
Oh,
that was DC bad. And I love the first one. Yeah,
DC is just making garbage movies 90% of the time, though. So it's not their fault. They're just really bad at what they're doing. I hate all of them. I didn't see the first Wonder Woman. I heard it was good, and I'm willing to allow that. But just about every other DC movie is...
It was a lot like Captain America. It's like everything is a mirror between the two.
Yeah.
And the first Captain America was solid. The second Captain America was solid. What I loved is that they went broad with the first. Yeah. And then they went narrow. One of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie was Samuel L. Jackson caught up in that SUV getting shot at.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was so but that reminded me, have you seen Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock?
Yes, but not for a long time. But yeah.
All right. Well, it's the whole idea of, with a movie, you have every single possibility cinematically to go as wide and huge and broad, and it's claustrophobic. So they went for the exact opposite, and you cannot help but feel in that vehicle just the tension of him being shot at. Plus, he's not the main hero, so he could die. You don't know.
Right. Well, it's like Kill Bill 2. In Kill Bill 2, when she gets shoved in the box, like they do that scene so well, where you're just like, you're crowded in there with Uma Thurman, and you're like, God, this is uncomfortable. And they crank up the ambient volume, like when they're nailing the nails into the plywood, and you're just like, oh God, this is just. But yeah, I love when movies use space really well, and Winter Soldier was just phenomenal. And actually, I thought it was funny because Winter Soldier dealt with similar issues to, I think, Superman Returns or something, but did it so much better.
Because it's a spy movie. It was kind of a different genre. It's, you know how you mentioned that Marvel is doing westerns. I think Winter Soldier was kind of more like a espionage or spy movie. Yeah,
and see, this is what I'm talking about. Where Marvel does really great things is when they go off of the grand scale adventure movies. Like, I like their westerns. Their spy movies good. Deadpool is like a rated R action comedy, which is
Oh, that's funny.
which was really good. And then you have you actually have what, Ant-Man. The first Ant-Man was like this fun heist movie. And here they are again going off of the big giant action adventure script and into this little niche genre of movies where it's heist movies, and they do it really, really well. And that's the stuff where I find that Marvel is doing better than the rest of their junk. Is that a cat?
I have 2 cats. They're fighting. It's late.
It's like, who's being sacrificed in the background?
Yeah, whatever. One of them probably jump on me and I'll bring him up. I do it on my show occasionally. God, who was it? Yeah, you morons, you'll make me lose my thought.
Bad cats. Bad kitty.
Yeah, well, they both deserve it. They're both shitheads sometimes.
Let me hit a couple of these chats.
Barnes is in here, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say he dropped a chat. Thank you to Robert Barnes. He says, "Great to see Eric Hunley on. Also, kudos to the good case reviews by Ricada." Hey, thanks, Barnes.
Oh yeah.
We need to chat again sometime. I had him on a while back, and it's been too long. I need to chat with him again. But yeah, especially with just all the nonsense going on these days. There's so many cases, and this stuff with Parler and Amazon. I mean, that case is. And we have.
At least it's not Linwood. You can move on.
And we have a judge in Parler versus Amazon who was born before World War II, deciding.
Are you kidding?
Deciding like the future of a tech company and saying she's going to take a more cautious approach to the case than issuing an immediate injunction. And it's like, You're gonna be
gone forever if you wait.
Yeah, this is tech. This is social media. You don't have 5 days. You definitely don't have 10. It's over.
Dude, actually, on that note, have you watched Eric Weinstein at all?
No, never heard of him.
He's Brett Weinstein's brother.
Okay.
The guy, he was a professor at Evergreen, very famously got his life threatened and everything because of a day. Well, Eric Weinstein, he's part of the intellectual dark web.
Oh, okay.
So I'll say that with authority. He actually coined the term intellectual dark web.
Ah, gotcha.
But anyway, he is a genius who works for Peter Thiel for his financial group. He was on the podcast, and I'll have to look up the name, but it's a video podcast with Sagar, who is one half of The Hill.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen that show in the morning.
No.
I know Barnes isn't a fan of Crystal Ball, but Sagar is kind of the right-wing side of The Hill. Anyway, I really recommend it because he excoriates the fact that the final 5 contestants for presidency were all born before World War II. And how we are being led and we keep putting people in the chair. And these people were born before 1940 or in the 40s.
Sure.
And these people have no idea. They don't know the internet. They don't know really what's going on. They have staff who does things for them. And we're looking to them to lead us, which is beyond ridiculous. We should have the Tulsi Gabbards or the Andrew Yangs. Now, Weinstein's a bit of a lefty per se, but he's at least an intellectually honest guy.
Sure.
So he's kind of like Dershowitz in that regard, where it's like, yeah, you probably, you may agree, disagree with a lot of them, but intellectually, he's, very deep into free speech and a lot of thought. And he's about, harmony and being a little bit reasonable. It's really worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll send me a link to it. I'll give it a shot. It is interesting how many people who are in control of what we do have, we're born in a time where they shared a phone line with their neighbors. Like dude,
I lived through party lines. Don't age me out, man. Don't be ageist.
Look, you're disqualified. No president for you.
I've been working technology. Damn it.
But
how dare you? No.
But no, there is something, again, like you did work in you worked in tech. You do work in tech, I think, still, right? Like
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you work in tech. You keep up on trends. You're actually on the internet doing stuff on your own. And that's something to be said. But when you get to these judges,
I write code.
You don't even need to learn to code. You already did.
Yes.
When you get to judges who are deciding these cases, and one of my favorite Fourth Amendment cases rings true, and with one of my favorite justices, Antonin Scalia, writing the opinion, even though I think it was completely ridiculous. It's U.S. v. Jones. It's from 2006. Okay, and so in 2004, I think it was when the case actually happened. It got to the Supreme Court in 06. They arrested a guy because they put a physical GPS unit on his car and tracked him, right? And so they're tracking him around, and they put the GPS tracker on the day after the warrant expired. But they're like, oh, what the hell? We'll put it on anyway because, cops or whatever. So they do that, and Scalia, rules eventually that this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment because they were trespassing on the property of the car. But in his ruling...
Yeah, it makes sense.
It does. The problem is in his ruling, he goes through and in his analysis, he's talking about how the car's on public roads, so therefore all of the tracking that they did would be perfectly legitimate. It's just this trespass specifically that's the problem, which is a little bit of a short-sighted ruling because it means that if they were to do something else, like using metadata and triangulation, follow you literally everywhere you go, so long as you were on a public road, then that's perfectly fine. And
Dude, that sounds like pen registers. And I hang out with Grumpy Old Geeks or whatever. Are you familiar with the license code cameras and scanners that are out there?
Oh,
They're private industries.
Yeah, where they scan license plates, they log them, and...
Yeah, everywhere.
Yes.
It's like the Google cars that go by in a lot of different vehicles, delivery, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They are literally recording license plates for every car they see everywhere they go. And some of the cops now are saying, well, shit, I don't want to get a search warrant. We'll just go pay $100 subscription and go look anybody up we want to, because the private commercial enterprise is putting it all right out there. So this sounds kind of similar to what you're saying with, with license plates, pen registers and whatnot.
Yeah, and the short-sighted aspect, in my opinion, from Scalia was that here you are, and he's saying, well, if you ran into your neighbor at a stoplight, like they're in the car next to you and they see you, then that's public.
Right.
So therefore, the cop following you is public. And it's like, yeah, but your neighbor doesn't like turn and follow you around everywhere you go. That wouldn't be that at some point.
Be creepy.
Yeah, at some point that traverses from running into you to stalking you or following you, and you could actually suggest that they were engaged in some sort of harassment. I mean, if someone followed you everywhere you go, stopped when you stopped, like waited for you outside the grocery store, followed you to church, waited for
Sounds
you
like
outside
stalking.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what he suggested. Basically, the government could do electronically, and that wasn't a Fourth Amendment violation. So, what bothered me about it was he came to the right conclusion that this was clearly a violation of the guy's rights, but he did it based on the trespass, the physical trespass of the car. And it's like, Scalia, I needed your help here. I needed the court to be ahead of technology. And instead, the court's like a decade behind, because by the time they decide this in 2006, they're already experimenting with metadata, with GPS. Sure. I mean, they could just technically, if Google sold their services on Google Maps, they could just pay them. I mean, I don't think they do that right now, or at least they maintain that they don't, and they need a search warrant, but they could, in theory, do that. And it's like, I don't like this. I don't like this. This isn't a Fourth Amendment protection to me. So.
Your chat is saying Jim Sterling raid. So I'm guessing it's Jim Sterling, because Jim Sterling raid is coming up a lot.
It's I think it's Raging Golden Eagle. Last night they did a movie bot raid, so I think it's just RGE telling a joke. But welcome to the Raiders. I love having you guys here every night. My appreciation. And if it is from Jim Sterling, tell him I said hey. What's up? Okay.
He's popular.
So we've got Sixth Floor Madness says, the human rectum is 2.5 inches wide, but can stretch up to 8 inches. A full-grown raccoon can fit into a hole 4 inches wide. viewers, do what you want with this information, but be sure to post pictures in Nick's Discord. No, please don't.
Did he test this?
I don't know.
Just saying. Is he the first picture?
I don't want. I'm never going in my Discord again. Puggernaut says, Nick, happy dystopian Friday. Hate to be one of those, but I left you a Twitter DM, and if you could reply to it sometime after the stream, I'd appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend. Puggernaut, I will look for it. Bad Vibes says, next thing you will hear is stores banning people because they wore patriotic clothing. What do you think about that?
That's actually not that far off.
Not at all.
Oddly, have you watched Tim Pool?
Yeah. I had him on the show once. I've watched him a couple times.
Oh,
I don't watch him.
Oh, that's right. You did. I forgot.
I don't watch him regularly because I watch.
It'd be your day.
When I watch
like 7 a day.
Yeah, and when I watch YouTube, it's always about nothing related to anything I talk about. It's always like I'm typically watching something stupid about Dungeons and Dragons because, well, I'm a nerd.
Good for you. That's cool. I like to watch Nandy Bushnell do drum off challenges with Foo Fighters.
I love the I love the drumming videos.
And Davey 504.
Davey, dude. I love watching Davey. I go to my wife. I'm like, look at this idiot play a 15-string bass, and she's like, so.
Smash like.
Yeah.
Just smash like.
And like, look at how long his pinky is. It's like 8 inches of pinky. But yeah, no, I love that guy. He's great. Okay, but anyway, patriotic clothing, stores banning it.
Yeah, okay. I would not be surprised because one thing Tim Pool pointed out, and I thought was very interesting, but he was pointing out as a power move, but now it'll backfire, is that Trump is associated with the American flag. So if you hold up an American flag somewhere, because the Confederate flag has been kind of pushed to the side, that was already there. But I would say the American flag has replaced the Confederate flag as meaning a racism and nationalism, etc., to a lot of very narrow-minded, woke people, if you will.
Yeah.
And it literally is owned. I mean, the American flag is considered a right-wing thing. And
yeah, it's
scary. So if you hate the right wing and you're trying to make the right wing terrorists, which there are people in Congress actively working to classify, and this is very significant. I did not realize it. I've had multiple FBI agents and stuff on.
Yeah.
I did not know there was no actual federal law that addressed domestic terrorism. And they were complaining about that. You know, like Timothy McVeigh was convicted for murder. That's on the books. It's a murder. He was executed. But there is no domestic terrorism. Now, I know some states have it, but federally they do not have it. And the feds were complaining about that a little bit because that gives them more leeway. But now I see what happened with the Capitol as Patriot Act Part 2, only this one's even more convenient because you now have a democratically led government, and they're saying that the terrorism is all from the opposing party, right wing, which they associate automatically with Republican, and that's not necessarily true, but it is in their eyes. So now you have one party, who is the government, creating or trying to create a law stating the other party is terrorists. And with that extra latitude, then you can spy on them and not worry about having your own Watergate. You could do it legally.
Oh yeah, it's crazy what they're trying to do. So the domestic terrorism thing is interesting because we do recognize domestic terrorists, but those domestic terrorists are always U.S. citizens that are foreign enemy combatants. So they're, they get classified as domestic terrorists, and those guys are actually like, that's the last, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be a U.S. citizen who's a foreign enemy combatant because you go to a military brig and then you go to Gitmo. And there is, you don't get a civilian trial. You can't even come close to it. If you're a foreign enemy combatant, then you actually have access to a civilian court in the United States if you want it. Now, most of them don't want it.
Depending.
Right. They haven't wanted it because of the courthouse that they chose for that was in New York, which was kind of a dick move, but hilarious. So all of the terrorists associated with Al Qaeda and ISIS later, would have to go to New York and justify their habeas hearings in a New York civil court. So
Could be worse. It could be Texas.
True. Well, yeah, I don't think they'd make it to the courthouse. But so they won the right to do that, I think, in 2000 and shoot, I'm going to get this wrong. I think it was 2009 in Hamdan versus Bush. But anyway, that case won them the right to a civilian trial. But I think it was Hamdi versus Bush is from 2004, and that was the one where it was a U.S. citizen who was caught as a foreign enemy combatant, and he did not get a civilian trial, and that has not been overturned. So you actually get that, but we don't have anything for, like you're saying, domestic terrorists, and I think there's good reason to do that. I don't want the government classifying people as domestic terrorists. I know it's like a popular news story. Yes. Whenever a president does it, because they're like, oh, well, Proud Boys are domestic terrorists, or they're like, oh, well, Antifa is a domestic terrorist group. And while I may agree that Antifa is a domestic terrorist group, like, I don't necessarily want a legal classification specifically around that, in the same way that I don't want a hate speech law. Because if they're doing something illegal, I want them punished for their illegal activity. And I don't think it's...
And they've done plenty. You got enough. I mean, it was like Antifa, okay. Let me see. You set a federal building on fire. Yep. You assault people with bike locks. I've got there's stuff there. Work with it.
Yeah, but they won't. Of course, Eric Clanton or whatever, the bike lock basher, he goes free.
Oh yeah.
Completely ridiculous. But yeah, my point is they need to enforce the laws they have on the books. I don't want a separate classification that somehow makes murdering someone worse than the murder or beating someone worse than the beating. I don't want a hate speech law. I similarly don't want that. And I don't want it for exactly the reasons that your FBI guy was citing. They want more leeway in going after people. And like, I don't actually want you looking into
Well, they didn't
speech.
cite that. That was me extrapolating and then running with it, okay?
Yeah, okay.
I have smart FBI guys. So don't keep checking out my channel.
And
they're not going to say that.
No, and the other reason for that is because for every one I agree with, right? For every one I say, okay, I think Antifa is genuinely terrible. I think they're genuinely a threat domestically. I go, but someone else will think someone I like is genuinely a threat domestically. And I don't want their lives ruined. And I genuinely feel that there's a disproportionate application of these things coming from the left and the right. I see the right. I see the right as almost, many would describe them as spineless, and they're afraid to pursue these avenues that exist, whereas the left is like willing to go beyond it to punish their enemies. At least it seems
I would argue the left has been more effective at using the courts to move their initiatives. And I'm all for gay marriage, honestly. I really don't care. But that's a perfect example.
Right.
What does that have to do with anything? They get the court to decide it. And they're good at that. And they also have won culture. It's sad but true. I don't know. Andrew Breitbart died in 2011. And I'm not talking about Breitbart, that, website. I'm talking about actual Andrew Breitbart. I don't know if you've read his stuff.
F's in chat for Andrew Breitbart, by the way, guys. So
amazing dude. His book, Righteous Indignation, I think holds up completely to this day. And he is right. They have won the cultural aspect of it.
Oh, look at that chat go. Big respect for Andrew Breitbart in chat.
Absolutely. Not Bannon's channel, but Breitbart himself. Sorry. There is a difference. I mean, Breitbart was a brilliant dude. I mean, hell, he built Huffington Post and Breitbart News, which is a crazy dichotomy if you think about it. So kind of left, kind of right, kind of all that. Kind of like Barnes. And I saw Barnes dropped a chat too, but Barnes started on the left as a Democrat, and now Barnes is right. And I think that as soon as the right gets back into power and they're a pain in the ass, I will bet $100 that Barnes will be right back on the left, beating up on the right, because he just doesn't like. I don't think he likes people in power who try to continue their authority. That's my thought. I don't know. I could be wrong.
And that's a good thing. I think that's something that I learned. I learned kind of the hard way, because I was in college during 9/11, and I remember the Patriot Act coming out, and I had my spell of jingoistic nationalism, right?
Yeah, it's
Following,
like, yeah, God damn them. Yeah, hell with that. Yeah,
and
get
I was
them
like,
all.
yeah, I strongly considered joining the military, something I had never done, never considered in my life. And I was like, I just wanted to go and kick somebody's ass for what happened. And I was
Sure.
okay with all of the stuff that happened. And then as I grew and watched the just horrific results of the Patriot Act, and especially culminating with the revelations of Snowden, and you're like, which I feel that sounds like a Bible book, goodness, with the revelations of Snowden though, and you see like what it actually did and how it empowered the government, and you're like, wait a minute. And we're seeing ramifications of it still, and it actually plays into kind of one of the topics of tonight, which is this deplatforming thing, because
Sure.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Operation Choke Point, but that kind of stemmed out of the Patriot Act. But it's basically, okay, it's an anti-money laundering sort of scheme that was aimed at combating terrorism, and that is what MasterCard and other financial institutions use to deplatform voices, is this structure that they built around Operation Choke Point. And it's a mess. It's really ugly. And the problem with Parler, the problem for Parler, I should say, is even if they win the case against Amazon, they'll come back. It'll be a short matter of time, and they will be defunded by the banks. The banks will.
I gotta say one thing. I sent you an article earlier in DM.
Yeah.
And I do want to get out there. Some of this Parler earned because they're stupid.
Yeah.
They should not have said, "Oh, let me go build my stuff on AWS." When you had Gab went through this 2 years ago, you had Subscribestar who also went through this. My sympathy level is a little bit down, and I think Barnes has brought it up too, that Dan Bogino or whatever should have known a little bit better about what was going on. But
all these guys,
come on,
all of them should have known.
It's embarrassing when one of the co-founders of Pirate Bay is making fun of you.
Yeah, although I didn't read all of the article. I gave it a breeze through.
No, I understand.
I have some criticisms, though, of the Pirate Bay guy, because what they're doing is of a vastly different scale of service than what Parler's doing, at least in my sort of lay understanding of internet. To me, it seems like Parler needs more, I don't know if bandwidth is the right term, but they need more engines running, so to speak.
Well, that's exactly what BitTorrent's about, is the distributed computing. So Pirate Bay is doing it, saying, "Oh, let me. I'm going to take a chunk of your computer and take a chunk of everybody's computer," and it's very difficult to shut it down because everybody's got a little bit of a piece of it. So
right.
And I think Minds is trying to do a little bit of that, and some others with blockchain and whatever else. Now I'm starting to get out of my depth. I'm not deep into blockchain, but
yeah, don't worry, you're deeper than me.
The first thing is, though, they should have at least had their own servers or a legitimate data center
with all
going on a cloud.
With all the money that they had, they definitely should have. That's the thing, and that's what I think made them think they were invincible. Parler, I think, is a product of hubris, where they thought, we've got big, high-profile right-wing or Republican donors and backers who are funding this thing. They are still online. We'll still be able to be online. We can kind of tread the line between what they want for moderation and what we want for a lack of moderation. And I think they thought that this wouldn't happen to them because of the high-profile nature of it. And I got news, y'all. If the biggest company in the world went hard right on something, they would be just as vulnerable as Parler, because big tech wields the ability to communicate. And it goes back to Pulitzer, right? Saying never go to war with a man who buys ink by the barrel. I think
it was either him or Hearst, because Pulitzer and Hearst were in war with each other.
Right. And
So it's crazy. Yeah, you're right though.
whichever one said it, I mean, they're the new barrel buyers, big tech.
Only they're stronger.
Right.
They're even stronger. It's
they have a monopoly on communication and distribution at a global level across all governments. And it's and to think that any company can survive the absolute removal and go on as sort of as a status quo after that is insane. I mean, a company may be able to survive. Certainly Alex Jones has survived his deplatforming, but
Gab has to a degree, but they're all fringe.
Yeah.
They're fringe players.
They're fringe players, and I would bet that Alex Jones took a massive hit to viewership and income when he was deplatformed.
Sure.
Because people don't follow off of mainstream platforms. No matter how much they profess they want to, they just don't in the numbers required to fully perform anywhere else. It's just
it may change though. They may have overplayed it because I was just looking at there was a computer guy talking about computing forever. Dave Cullen got thrown off YouTube.
Sure.
That's 500,000. Sargon of Akkad, he was on Minds. That's 1 million plus. If you have enough genuinely giant creators and they get thrown off and they do go somewhere else, then now suddenly people will consider it because they can go to one place and they get their favorite voices if there's enough of them. So it's a weird situation where I hate to say I almost want them to keep overplaying their hand in some ways because that's going to force, everybody to make a move that's kind of sitting on the fence that's large enough to draw an audience. But I don't know about you. Like I'm on Minds, I'm on Signal, I'm on Telegram, I'm on Gab, I'm at all of these, and I'm doing exactly very little. I kind of want to see, where is everybody following me? Do I get something? Are people doing something?
Right.
And then I can respond, but I don't really know necessarily what to do or where to go. And I think you're on Minds.
I'm on Minds and Mastodon, which is Mastodon is in.
Oh my God, that's old. Yeah.
That is my buddy Dick Masterson suggests that is basically the future, is this idea, because it's basically blockchain based social network, if I understand the terms correctly, but it's distributed and it's decentralized. You can't really take it down in the way that you can take down Twitter or something. Like, well, obviously you're not going to take down Twitter. That's not going anywhere. But Gab or whatever, in theory, if they were able to go after Gab servers, they could do the same thing that they did to Parler. I don't know how Gab is set up. I don't know how they would absorb that sort of attack, but theoretically they could launch the attack, is my understanding. Now, as for like Mastodon, and this is what Minds is apparently about to do. I told you right before the show that Minds had to make big announcement because Google took Minds off the store and they had to very quickly strip down their app and basically remove messaging from it. That's what that's one of the things they removed, because I don't know if you've seen this. This correlates exactly to mainstream media is attacking alternative social media on a broad scale right now. And they're talking about how it's the messaging apps now that they're going after, because Twitter and Facebook are out in the open because you post publicly to public timelines and stuff like that. But
except for Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp.
Yeah, but we're going to ignore those.
We won't talk about those, or DMing on Twitter. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I screwing up the narrative?
They're going after Telegram, because law enforcement can't track stuff like Telegram and Signal very easily. And so they're going after those things now. I saw a news story about it today. And man, it is the same people. It's Washington Post, it's Vox.com, it's them, and they're targeted hit pieces. I'm sure they're solicited hit pieces, and they are going after places. So they hit Minds on their messaging app, and Minds had to basically remove that and resubmit to Google. Google accepted their stripped down version. If you're on Android and you use Minds, by the way, you can still download the app directly from Minds that is full functionality. The one in the Play Store is stripped down. Apple has the same stripped down thing. And the Minds guy actually said, get off of Apple if you know it's good for you, because they're he appears to not like their curated app platform, but that's
Not surprising.
right.
That's another.
But that is what's going on with Minds, and everybody's on the block. Like if Torba thinks that Gab went through it and they're done, Gab's gonna go through it again with their record growth. It's gonna come back to them.
Well, they're already out of the app stores. So, I mean, Gab
Yeah.
already is much more in position because they're already web only.
Right.
They're already out of the app stores. If they own they're kind of like Alex Jones. I mean, they can go after Alex Jones again, but there is a point where it's like, oh, I own my servers, I own my data center. Unless somebody cuts off my internet.
You have to get big enough to do that. That's the crazy thing, is you have to get big enough to own your servers or have some other solution. But I think that's kind of the new, whatever shape the web takes, it's going to have to be something where there are small, I don't know, like if nodes is the right term, but where server usage is done like in small contractual agreements rather than these big ones.
Or distributed computing. Yeah, I mean, like BitTorrent, we're coming full circle there. But
right.
You notice that people still download movies from Sweden and games and everything else. Same principle. You can't really control it because, they'll take down Pirate Bay servers all over the place, but they're still everywhere because people run the app on their computer and they're sharing what's on there as distributed. So,
right.
I guess, we need to get to that point. Internet was here's the irony. The internet was designed to be that way.
Yeah.
It was actually created by DoD in the United States to be a distributed technology that cannot be taken down due to a nuclear attack. And we're actually working with companies that are trying to take it down or control it, to this degree. So let's go to the spirit of the internet. Let's get distributed. Let's say up yours, fuck you.
That would be an interesting thing, is and me not knowing the functionality of all this stuff. Is there a place where like individuals buy some sort of like NAS server or whatever, and and basically that's their contribution to the cloud? Like I know people used to run like folding at home on PlayStation. So some sort of idea like that where you have some passive processing thing that runs it. And is there one distributed, is that distributed computing? And two, is there a way to compensate people who hop on it? Like it's through some sort of, coin type currency or whatever. Is there anything?
Yeah, I'm not
like
sure.
that?
I'm not sure. I mean, LimeWire existed back in the day, and that got shut down because there were centralized servers.
Right.
But I mean, way back in the day, everybody could have a FTP site on their own computer. You can run a web server on your own server, whatever. I'm sure there may be something out there, and maybe it's all in the dark web. I haven't spent a lot of time in the dark web, which means none really. But like, there's onion servers. I mean, the first thing you have to get down is full-on encryption.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to just have bits that are moving everywhere that nobody knows exactly what they are.
Yes.
And I think that's the most significant factor, because any kind of service or any kind of functionality or anything you're talking about there, if it's open, it's known protocols or something that's trackable, it can be stopped, blocked, etc. Like you can have routers block the protocol, sniff the packets, tear it open. There's a lot of things you can do. So I would argue that some sort of a universal encryption functionality, be it onion browsers or whatever,
but then
kind of has to go on all the time.
I gotta stop you here, Eric. I gotta stop you here. What if people say stuff that is dangerous?
Yeah, it'd be like me saying something dangerous to you in my room that nobody's listening to.
But I don't want dangerous talk. We got to stop it. Huh. So what we need is we need a backdoor.
Well, get back to me.
We need a backdoor key to the encryption, and we'll give it to the NSA. We'll probably give it to Google and Apple just in case someone does it on their phone.
They'll make it for us.
Yeah,
they'll make it for us.
That's right. But see, this is the problem: is that everything you're talking about sounds great, right? But
Mhm.
where everybody's going to get their products isn't that. And the weird thing is that's almost what Jack Dorsey is talking about doing, right? Like when
Sure.
his good moments during the during that Section 230 piece of political theater,
And with Tim Pool and on Rogan, sure.
right, is Jack sitting there saying, "Well, we actually want to give people control over the algorithms, and we want distributed internet that's free speech." It's like, but I don't get why Twitter is allowed to carry on this masquerade that they want that while doing the literal opposite.
Nick,
Like-
they do want that for Uganda.
Yeah, that's right.
Pay attention.
You're right.
He's talking about other countries who have value, not the disgusting United States with that embarrassing flag.
That's
Pay
true.
attention.
Okay, you got it. And Jack does sort of. Okay, so there's someone in my family who I love very dearly, but they did a lot of global traveling, right? Like spent a lot of time in other countries, and then when they came back, would talk a lot about like, well, when you go to these other places, then you realize this and this and this, and it was like, okay, you're not that enlightened. You went to Thailand for like 6 weeks. Okay, I got it, but
They're like Madonna with the fake British accent.
right. But it's and I do like this person. Their experience is interesting and valuable and all of that stuff. But some of the times when they talk, I'm like, and they're surprised by something that happens in one of these third world countries where like a dictator does something ridiculous, and they're like, I just can't believe a dictator would do that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course they would. That's
the manual.
that's why they're the dictator. So that's how Jack strikes me, right? He's like quintessentially American, but he's billionaire enough to be completely detached. And then he's like, but I spent 6 months off of the internet in India getting massages and
After
doing
Burning
yoga.
Man.
Yeah.
After Burning Man.
Right. And it's like, okay, stop trying to lecture me like you're some massive savant of culture. I don't want it. I don't want these people to tell me anything about life, except how to make billions of dollars by grifting the entire earth.
Oh, I got an idea. How about you go ask that dissident from Russia to tell you? I'll talk to him.
Which dissident from Russia?
Oh, dude, the whole Twitter thing shutting down Trump. You had this dissident from Russia. I forgot his name, but he was somebody who was almost killed by Putin. I mean, like literally 90% dead, just barely survived it, saying, this is the stupidest thing ever. You're doing exactly what we do here. Yes, you call it a private company. We have private companies too that work with our government.
Right, yeah. Oh,
And
this is
you know what? I'm sorry. That's
his
a
name
bitch
is like
slap.
Kavaninsky or something, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a bitch slap when you're saying, yeah, your government's just like mine. It's like, okay, pay attention, guys.
Alex Navalny. Alex Navalny is what the chat is saying.
Perfect. Yeah, that's why I have a chat. But yes,
Yeah.
he wrote a 10 tweet breakdown of it in Russian and in English, and yeah, it's excoriating. He's like, hey, we have Merkel saying it's a problem. Merkel,
Right.
Germans who are not known for their free speech, man. They're very quick to lock down a lot of speech, and they're saying, this is problematic.
Yeah, and it really is. And I think here's my take on it, because I get they're a private company. They can do whatever they want. Okay, stop.
Build your own platform, Nick.
I build my own planet. If only Elon Musk gets us to Mars and populates it with cat girls, then I'm in. I'm in full bore. He's the greatest billionaire on the planet right now by a long shot.
At least he's funny.
He's funny, and he is unstoppable at the moment. That's the thing with Elon Musk, is he has reached the level of unstoppability, and he also happens to not seem to be as much of a douche as everybody else. But no, it's this shoot, where was I?
They're a private company.
Right, they're a private company, and it's like, wait a minute though. But Twitter allows official government accounts on their platform for the purpose of politics, and then they profit directly from that through advertisement. So you can't tell me that this is like a private company when you have an official account for the Director of National Intelligence giving policy updates there. At some point, we've got to go, okay, they may be a private company, but they're serving a quasi-government purpose. And at that point...
Well, they're the public square. They're the new public square. And that, I do like that case in Georgia. Actually, you brought that up during our 2:30 episode. And
yeah,
maybe it doesn't fit exactly, but I can
Alabama.
definitely... Okay, sorry.
March versus Alabama,
yeah, there you go. It's like, what does they say? History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Yeah.
That really rhymes with this situation where, by Twitter, Facebook, wherever, they're the de facto public square. If the president of the United States is putting everything out on it, how about this? There was actually a court ruling that said that Trump could not block people because his account was considered public knowledge. He is a public official.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, then how the hell can Twitter do it? And maybe I'm stupid, but it's like if the courts are saying that Trump can't block other people from seeing it, then how can Twitter block other people from seeing it? So help me out. You're the lawyer.
So the only reason they can is because that argument hasn't had an opportunity to be forwarded yet. And so this ruling came out, I think it was 2018. And I think it was 2018 because if I remember right, I was at Legoland when it came out. And so I was recording from...
Appropriate.
I was recording from Florida. And it was so hot. And I had to record outside because my entire family was there. And so I'm like still doing shows at the hotel, but I'm outside in the Florida humidity. And I found out later that our hotel room there at Legoland, one of the windows or the sliding doors or whatever didn't seal. So it was so humid in our room, and we thought it was just because it was Florida, but it turned out that the door wasn't sealing, and so there was just all this swamp air coming into the room. It was awful. But no, so at the time, I speculated that there would be an argument at some point in the future, but it somehow has to matriculate into the court with this ruling to go with it. But the argument will be something like that, where, okay, if we're going to accept that Trump's Twitter, and it was his personal Twitter, that's the other thing. It wasn't the POTUS Twitter. Yeah. His personal Twitter becomes a government space where he is not allowed to restrict people from access to it, then restricting someone from access to it as Twitter is an infringement on a right as much as Trump is infringing the right, so that Twitter would have to at least, at the bare minimum, allow people to maintain an account that would allow access with their identity or persona, because that was important in the case. Is that because Trump's argument, which was a good one, was that, well, they can just click on my name. They don't have to have their account, right? They could just log out of Twitter and they can still see everything I tweet. And the judge said, no, not good enough, because they need to be able to post like under their persona and have their voice.
And share it or retweet it or, color it. So,
So
it seems to be the same exact case.
Right. It's a logical extension of the case for sure. Although I think what was in danger of happening, and unfortunately Twitter just obviated all of this by banning Donald Trump. And this is if their lawyers were involved in the decision, maybe they brought this up. Oh, hey, Barnes has a chat here. He says courts already declared they are not public actors, unlike Trump. That is this distinction they have drawn. That is. Although I think they need to be sledgehammered on it over and over with the idea that even though they're not public actors, they're taking on some sort of public role. But it's going to have to have...
just seems weird. Yeah, I'm dumb. It doesn't make sense to me. So,
well, that's the thing with law, right? Is that a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense in any sort of common sense look at it. You go, okay, wait. If Trump's space is a public space and him blocking someone becomes a public act because it's restriction to the public space, well, then by extension, Twitter hosting the public space maybe shouldn't be able to block people who are attending the public space. Because if you look at the situation where Trump partners with Twitter rather than is at odds with Twitter, then Trump has the ability to get Twitter to block the public space. Right? Like that's, and we're
that'll be the same problem the other way. Yeah.
We're entering that space now where we go, okay, what if Democrat politicians actually do have active lines to moderation teams at Twitter? And they say, look, AOC, for example, says, okay, Twitter, what I need you to do is I need you to block every account that has hashtag Proud Boys. Like, and then does that make Twitter a government actor? And there is precedent, I believe, to suggest that yes, that would then allow them to be a public actor for a limited purpose. Robert Barnes says all of the court's excuses are BS. Basically, if it hurts big tech, then they won't enforce. And
well, thank you. I have the big brains agreeing with me, so I feel less dumb. And thank you,
Robert. You don't have to send another super chat if you don't want. Just tag me in the chat. Just tag me in the chat.
Yeah.
But do you think that if it hurts big tech, then they won't enforce? All the court's excuses are BS. I fully agree. Do you think there's a threat to the court or the judge that they're afraid of big tech? Because think about, we've got to start thinking about
if they don't understand it, Nick, it might be. I mean, we were just talking before about the whole octogenarians and septuagenarians who are determining everything. Well, you fear what you don't understand.
Well, it's not even.
Maybe that's the threat.
It's not even that. The idea that a judge or a court or a government could have their account effectively cut off by Twitter. It's like Twitter could cut off any government account, theoretically. Like they could just shut it down. They could shut off all U.S. government communications on Twitter. And what would happen? Mm-hmm. Like what would happen the next day? That would be a weird sort of thing.
How would they deal with that? Because I'm like, their headquarters are here. Technically, that is a physical building. I
have the same...
I don't know where Jack Dorsey is, but I don't know. I kind of wonder. I hate to say it, but maybe you look to China. What would they do? Because China does manage to control.
Yeah. Well, and I say the same thing about the banks, right? Like if the government goes too hard at banks and payment processing, for example, there is a point where banks go, we're private companies and we refuse to service the United States government's payment processing. Well, like what happens if every bank got together and decided not to cash Social Security checks or accept EFTs from Social Security? Like, there's nothing actually stopping that as far as I can tell.
Well, that gets into the whole thing that our currency is nothing more than trust. It's pieces of paper. There's no value other than somebody saying, oh, I acknowledge that having value, but technically there is no actual value. Oh, everything we have is run on trust. I mean, think about what a credit card is. We're renting a multi-$1,000 car with a credit card. What the hell does that mean? Yeah. So you are right that our society is glued together or barely held together by culture in of itself, and that same culture of trust and belief in the laws. And I think Barnes has talked about that a little bit, but there's a very, very thin veneer that when that trust breaks down, then we're no different than Somalia.
Barnes brought up a good point in the chat, and I love this because he's in the chat, so I get to do what I'm going to do right now. This is something I've been thinking about quite a bit.
All right, let's see.
So I'm going to borrow his brilliant point, but he says, courts defer to big tech the way courts deferred to railroads in the 19th century for the same mix of reasons. And it's true, and this is my biggest problem with the left being in full support of the big tech censorship right now, is that the left was fully opposed to the railroads of the 19th century for the exact same reasons that they're in support of big tech now. And this idea that they're like, oh, well, they're private companies, they could do whatever they want. That didn't matter at all when railroads were distributing Standard Oil and snuffing out competitors. But
the left is in power now, though.
Right.
Whoever is in power is going to support whatever infrastructure holds them in power. Yeah. Last time I checked. So the left has won the culture war. They control the media. their supposed watchdogs are right there in bed with them. So all they're doing is sustaining what they already have. And that's why I'm saying that I can totally see the Barnes as soon as let's say the right gains control, it starts acting like assholes, which they did not that long ago,
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s and whatnot. Barnes will be right there slamming against them.
Yeah, and I just love the parallel, the railroad distributing Standard
Sure.
Oil to Amazon Web Services distributing tweets. Like it's
Dude, there's more to it than you realize. Do you realize? I don't know. Have you gone into the whole antitrust angle on Amazon beyond what we're talking about right now? Because this shit is out there. There's a Yale paper that was written. I forgot the name of the student, but it went fairly viral. Amazon owns Ring. Why does Amazon own Ring? Because Ring put all their data on Amazon Web Services. So Amazon, with their web services, say, ooh, there's a lot of traffic going to this startup.
mm-hmm.
We should buy that startup.
Yeah.
And they do. Or Amazon Basics. How does Amazon Basics work? Well, let me see. What do all the people buy on Amazon? Oh, let me see. I need lightning cables for my iPhone. I need other cables for my Android. I need this and that, right? So
Yeah.
Amazon has all these records. They say, okay, well, now we're going to create our own cables. We'll call them Amazon Basics. And good news, we can make sure that our Amazon Basics show up in the same search that you say, I need an Apple iPhone cord. Well, what a coincidence. There's an Amazon Basics cord that shows up right next to it.
50 cents cheaper.
Yes. And by the way, when I go to a grocery store and I want to buy, let's say, some beer, because I'm obviously having some, I look at the refrigerator and I see all the different beers. And there's chicanery going on, don't get me wrong, where they're buying out the areas, Anheuser-Busch with their 18 packs and whatever to squeeze them out.
Yeah.
But I can at least physically look at the whole refrigerator and say, oh, that's a cool looking logo on that thing over there, that beer. Yeah. I can go walk over to it and look. But on Amazon, they control the search. So when I search for something, they're going to surface what they want to surface.
Right.
This is where the problem lies. And it is much deeper than just Twitter. Twitter is showing, or Parler, it's showing that Amazon Web Services controls so much. But people don't know that. That's why Amazon became so big. They were nothing but losing money since like 1996 through 2017 or so.
Sure.
It's web services that makes all their money.
Yeah, and it makes them a lot because, and they, of course, the most interesting revelation to me from the Parler lawsuit was that Amazon is twice as big as their next competitor, and it's bigger.
Which is probably Microsoft, and Microsoft became $1 trillion company. Yeah,
and it's bigger than the next three competitors combined. That's amazing.
Yes.
Like it's an amazing amount of power over something that has. And my problem with all this is that the courts are just always so far behind tech. And we see this.
Sure.
I talked about this when I covered the Vic Mignogna lawsuit and the defamation stuff, is that courts are behind on Twitter. And so the part of the problem that you have is you have to explain to a judge who's generally increasing in age, and as a judge really isn't tweeting. Like, you notice there's a distinct lack of judge tweets going on.
Probably a good thing. Probably
right.
a good thing, honestly.
Right, but because of that, like you don't want the Supreme Court tweeting out their like individual perspectives on things. Like, I don't want a Breyer Twitter feed. I think I would probably jump in a vat of acid before I watch. Of course, Stephen Breyer couldn't condense anything down to one tweet. He'd have to be on Parler to have 1,000 characters. But anyway,
or take pictures.
Right. But we really don't want that, because it would compromise a judge's air of impartiality that they're supposed to maintain.
Sure.
But that being said, because they don't use it and they really would have problems using it, they have no idea the real impact that Twitter has, I don't think. And so in the Vic Mignogna lawsuit, you had a bunch of people effectively through tweets completely destroy a man's life. Like, and I
Right.
mean, absolutely critically crippled his career, all of this stuff over some tweets. And then you get into court and you have to convince a judge why some fat chick named Mars Girl, like why her tweet somehow mattered in some way, and why that tweet being picked up by one of Vic's closest closest friends and coworkers, why that retweet is extremely significant. Because if it's just some weirdo from California making an accusation, well, you can kind of ignore that. But the second one of his coworkers in the industry retweets it and broadens out the platform dramatically, if someone with 60,000 followers retweets something and all those followers have a chance to look at it and retweet it, the reach, the impressions on that thing go into the millions very quickly. And so it's like trying to explain to a judge how someone with 50,000 followers retweeting something actually has impact of distributing a false statement to millions of people is a really hard thing to do. And this is the problem that I have with courts. The same thing with Amazon and this Parler thing is like Parler being taken down for 5 days could bury the company forever. Parler being taken down.
Gone.
Yeah, the Parler being taken down for 10 days is definitely killing it. They'll have to rebrand as something else completely. And they'll
I just thought of something. I just thought of something while you were talking to me, literally just now.
Yeah.
And I think I realized the problem with the judges and the Twitter, and it might be something we missed. Well, the courts don't know anything about Twitter, so who are they going to consult? Academia.
Yeah.
And where does that land? And by the way, tell me about all those viral professor accounts.
Oh, they love it. Academia.
So I'm just saying, they don't know, and you're going to get fed that exact left-wing Breitbart. Again, we're circling right back to Breitbart about winning the culture. So academia is just going to toe the party line that, yeah, Trump's evil, take him off. Yeah, that's evil, take it off. Yeah, a small account's not going to really do anything. That doesn't matter. Only legitimate people that we care about matter.
It's the insidious nature of academia. It's the insidious nature of lawyers and law Twitter as well. Anyone with expertise looks at social media as a powder keg, and they're just trying to find the book of matches, right? They go, all I have to do to really get a lot of attention, in a way I'll never get by publishing to like the Social Science Reading Network or what, SSRN. Like, I can publish all my papers there and no one will ever read them. But if I make that one tweet with a point dunking on someone, then that is where their entire life's work will be validated by one tweet where it never would with 5 academic papers. That is the intoxicant that Twitter offers to academia. And so, yeah, of course they're going to back it. Of course they are. And it's the same thing with lawyers who will do great work fighting thousands of cases for clients over their lifetime, and no one will care. But, they make some viral tweet and suddenly 100,000 people know who they are and their business takes off. And
okay, can we see Linwood? I'm sorry. Come on, he's giving you some followers, man.
No, Lynn is great. I always want Linwood to speak his mind as loudly and as publicly as possible. But he hasn't been
Barnes
talking.
chatted in there too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Something with the Legal Academy chat. Just saw it. Damn it.
I'll find it.
Essentially, it's the best thing big tech did was buy off the Legal Academy. I think something like that.
Yep. Here it is. It says smartest move big tech made was buying off the Legal Academy. And they love it. That's why I really want to get some people who have gone toe to toe with big tech on the show. I would love to talk to like Harmeet Dillon, who represented James Damore against Google, or her associate Ron Coleman, because I think there are lawyers out there who understand how dangerous big tech really is. And I hate saying that, right? Because
I wish that.
How old do we sound? We're like, this stupid big technology.
Well, no, I totally agree. I can't help but think of somebody at Barnes's probably is David Boyes. Um, but he's probably so far on the other side you'll never get him. But I would wish to find somebody with his mind who has worked the big tech angle through the years.
Yeah.
Because we have the other problem, I hate to say, with the millennial viewpoint and the more cynical, I would like to say, Xer viewpoint. Yes, I'm a Gen Xer, which is kind of the shitty squeeze between the boomers and the millennials.
Depending on which measure you go by, I'm at the very tail end of Gen X. So I identify as Gen X.
Oh, I'd claim it. I would claim it too. Nobody wants to be a millennial. Other than your chat, and they're fine millennials, and we like.
I have a quick story about that, if that's okay. I was meeting a buddy of mine in Uptown Minneapolis at this ramen place. Which, if you're ever in Uptown Minneapolis and you want some ramen, go to Moto E. It's Moto-I. Great restaurant, and they also have pan fried pork belly, which is really good. And they brew their own sake. It's the best restaurant. Anyway, so I'm meeting him there. And I'm walking in Uptown because you have to park a couple blocks away or whatever. So I'm walking to the restaurant and it starts snowing. These giant flakes of snow. It's like movie snow. It's beautiful, right?
And quiet.
Everything in Uptown is coated in like a ½ inch of this fluffy snow, and it's falling down. And I have a big beard at the time, and it's like landing in my beard. And this like chick comes up to me with a camera and she says, "Hello, sir. Are you a millennial?" And I said, "I don't identify as a millennial," right? And she goes, "Okay, thank you," and turns around and walks away. She was like doing some film project. I don't know, on like millennials in Uptown or something. But
oh my God.
It was like, even with the prospect of being in some like stupid art project, I was like, no, I'm not a millennial.
But if you said, "Are you a hipster?" you'd say, "Well, you know."
I was making fun of hipsters before it was cool. No, yeah, but I just like, no, I claim Gen X as hard as possible. So sorry to derail that.
No, not at all, dude. I'm very proud of my age. But I'm not a boomer and I'm not a millennial. Like I said, it's kind of in the middle of a really shitty sandwich.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some more chats real quick if we could.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, please.
Bad Vibe says, "Nick, get your nose in gear. Don't be late tonight." He also says, "Good job when we weren't late," so that was nice. Bad Vibe says, "How about that Pennsylvania lieutenant governor who may be using law to silence individual questioning the integrity of their election?" Did you see that?
I saw something about this lieutenant governor who looked like he was part of the WWE.
He's a
but
giant.
I didn't read any of them. He looks like just a bruiser, and I was like, if he's like a left-wing freakazoid, that'll be very weird. Anything's possible.
He's like 6'8" and 300 pounds. He's just this monster.
Oh, he's Comey's brother. He and Comey could go like hold hands. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But no, he was out there like of course he made it to credit to Bad Legal Takes, who I hate the Twitter account Bad Legal Takes, but at least they were intellectually honest and they put him on there. He basically said, "You have no legal right to lie, and therefore all lies should be deleted from social media immediately."
Okay, so we shut it down?
Yeah. But
all the police are gone.
Yeah, it's nuts. It was like, yeah, you don't have a right to lie. That's illegal. It's like, okay, buddy. So what he's talking about, those people questioning the Pennsylvania election and saying that specifically the quote that Pennsylvania was rigged. Of course, ignoring sort of the colloquial usage of rigged. The problem in Pennsylvania for me is how they passed their absentee voter law. Like that is, and how the Pennsylvania Supreme Court upholding it, I think, is one of the worst Supreme Court decisions I've ever seen.
Dude, I think when I first met you was on a debate between Viva Fry and Nate about that exact topic, and it didn't settle down
No.
the entire time.
Well, I mean, to explain briefly the lunacy of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's decision, all right? So, to amend the Constitution to allow the law that they used to determine absentee voting, right? So they changed the law to allow full-on absentee voting in Pennsylvania, no-fault absentee voting.
Right.
And then they realized that they had to amend the Constitution to do it. Well, to amend the Constitution, you have to have 2 separate sessions of Congress approve the bill. So they had one.
The legislature, right?
Yeah, their full legislature. So they had one session of legislature approve it, both House and Senate, in 2020. Now in 2021, they have to have it approved again, and then it has to go to a general vote in 2021 on the ballot to the people, and the people have to approve the constitutional amendment. Now get this, to allow that constitutional amendment, they will use the unconstitutional law about absentee voting to allow absentee voting in 2021 to vote on the amendment.
I see. So it's a precedent. They use it as a precedent for an illegal. Is that what you're saying? I'm confused.
So the law is technically unconstitutional as it stands because the Constitution hasn't been modified to allow it. And they recognize that it was unconstitutional, which is why they specifically modified the Constitution, why they specifically proposed the amendment. But to pass the amendment, they have to use the unconstitutional law around voting to vote on the amendment.
Which is crazy. I mean, and of course, the amendment already has been put into effect and used anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
Right. And if that's the case, though, then the process for amending the Constitution that's laid out in the Pennsylvania Constitution doesn't apply. It would honestly be saying we can pass a law banning free speech, and then we'll pass an amendment that requires
based
us
on that first law,
right?
Okay,
it's a legal impossibility, and Pennsylvania's just rolling with it because the Supreme Court, in a extremely partisan 5 Democrats versus 3 Republican decision, said, nope, we don't even need to address it. And the 3 Republicans, to be very clear, said, we don't want to overturn the election results, but we have to hear this case because the ramifications for the amendment process are a problem. And the 5 Democrats said no. They effectively said that the Constitution of Pennsylvania and the process built in for amending it don't apply.
It's good to be king, man.
Robert Barnes says, kind of how they amended the Articles of Confederation with the Constitution by changing the number of states required to affirm the amendment.
There you go.
All right. So
wow.
Scraith says, hey, Eric, Nolan Trail, Yorktown Tour Roads, or NN Park Trails?
Damn, it's a local person. Right now, I'm too fat to do any of them, and I'm drinking too much damn beer. I got to get that straightened out.
What is this? I don't know what that means.
I'm a lapsed runner who has 4 marathons and a 50K under my belt.
A
but
50K.
Oh, well, it's it's like a 5K times 10. It's
30
ultra
30-ish
run, but
miles.
it's very, very low. Yeah, it's just over 30. So it's very low end on the ultra scale. But Nolan Trail is a 5-mile loop that we have up here on the peninsula. I live in the peninsula. Hampton Roads is like 7 cities: Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton, Williamsburg, where you can find Reagan's attempted assassin.
Sure.
Anyway, Nolan Trail is in Newport News. It's around a museum. It's a 5-mile nature loop with ups and downs. So that's what he's talking about. So a decent little trail.
Do you like trail running or street running better?
I actually like street running because I don't really. Running's an interesting thing. Have you heard about the runner's high?
Mm-hmm. I did a marathon a couple years back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Prior to developing my heat allergy, which put a complete stop on running.
That will fuck with you. But okay, so if you are a runner and you train to a marathon, then you know that most runs suck.
Yep.
You get an occasional run where everything just clicks. It's like, oh, that felt good. It was smooth. And then, like a dumbass junkie, you think, I'm going to go back out the next day. And then you're just feeling like you're running through syrup going, God, this just sucks. So, anyway, that's running. And the runner's high is that one didn't really hurt.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of
true.
Bullshit.
When my foot didn't hurt, that was a good run.
Right. When you're just kind of like, oh, everything kind of went, and I went, and it's like, okay, I'm rolling with it. Cool. So when I'm running, it's really an excuse to read an audiobook or listen to podcasts or things like that. But right now, I'm way too fat. I've just crushed my knees and smashed my ankles. I've got to get some weight down.
I don't listen. That is something that it cannot be stated enough with running. 20 pounds makes a world of difference in running.
It's about 4 to 6 times compounded.
Yeah.
So when you say 20 pounds, you're actually looking at a multiplier.
Right.
Of that weight smashing.
I loved running. I really did. The runner's high, I agree, is garbage, but I liked I don't listen to music while I run or podcasts or anything. I just run and think to myself and flush out like story ideas and stuff like that. And so I would run. I ran all through law school, and then I did my marathon. I think in 2014. Now, God, it's been a long time. And
really, that was my first. I did what was that? 3:24, I think it was.
Mine was like 4 hours and 20 minutes, I think, was what I did. My buddy and I, 4 hours, 9 minutes, 4 hours, 20 minutes, something like that. And the training for it was great. I loved getting out and running, but the ultimate problem I had was the next year. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a half marathon this year and then maybe do another marathon the next year.
Sure.
I went out to start training, and I came back after my first run. I was covered in hives. And I had developed cholerogenic urticaria. So I get, if my internal body temperature raises by a couple degrees, I break out into horrific itchy hives. So I'm literally allergic to heat.
Wow, that sucks. Can you run now in the winter over there?
No, because it's internal temperature. So once your cardio system kicks up, like it takes a little longer. But once it kicks up, you're in for like an hour and a half, no matter what.
Okay, so I'm gonna take the part of your chat and say, so when you're trying to get busy on child number 6,
we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Some things are worth it. No, it's shockingly, to be candid, no. Shockingly, that doesn't really affect it in the same way. But it's probably due to the one thing is I now have allergy shots for it. I have shots which help suppress it quite a bit. And 2, it's probably the difference between, running for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Look, I'm good for a long session every now and then, but most of the time we don't need that much. I've been married a while, okay?
How you doing? Are you there yet? Okay.
But anyway, well, moving on from that very comfortable topic.
How about those super chats?
Blaine20 says, I sent you a link on Discord to a tweet of the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania saying that we, the people, don't have the right to say the Pennsylvania election was rigged and should be censored for it. Yep, we just talked about that. Bad Vibe says, Nick, police are able to ping cell phones and get locations. And here in Eastern Oregon, they have coded out their communications. I know, that was my problem with Scalia's decision. Versi says, oh, shit, I missed this one from Robert Barnes. He says, good future legal topics. How designating Americans enemy combatants is constitutionally bogus. Oh, that is a good
I
one.
should bring you guys both on to talk about that, man.
I'm down. I'm down. Now it's on you, Robert.
Yeah, Barnes, are you down? Barnes has agreed to debate somebody, but the guy won't answer his freaking phone. So I'm kind of like,
Debate. What? I won't make you put the guy on blast. But what topic?
Well, I wasn't sure. Okay, the guy went kind of off the rails on Trump is a Nazi, which is old fare, and I decided to do the topic of is populism dead with Trump?
Oh,
Because
okay.
I thought that would be a good sneaky way to bring out the guy to say Trump is a Nazi. And I did warn Barnes that the guy kind of hated Trump because Barnes isn't afraid to talk to anybody. But I'm still going to say, hey, this is going to be contentious, and this guy's an internet lawyer. And you know what's sad is he actually worked on the Pentagon Papers case.
Who is he? Okay, can you say who it is, or do you not want to? You don't have to.
Danny, I gotta look him up. So,
okay, I if his name is Danny, I have no idea who it is.
Yeah. Daniel Sheehan.
Hmm.
He's a constitutional lawyer. He worked on the Pentagon Papers. I think he's done some work for Julian Assange. So a lot of he's a good guy in a lot of the points, but
right, he just doesn't like Trump.
Doesn't like Trump and all that, and immediately went for the old trope Nazi, blah 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 blah, and. Well, you met Allison. You were on the show with her.
Yeah, I liked her. She was great.
Yeah, we're becoming pretty good friends, and she's brought him in, and I was like, I want to have him talk to Barnes because the guy kind of essentially how'd she put it? She goes, "Oh, great, he just called my whole audience Nazis," and so she's sitting there doing the show with him.
Yeah.
And I saw her face with that whole Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, you talked about this.
Oh, yeah. And it was hilarious. And she admitted to it, but I could just see in her eyes, it was like, how's that social blade looking in your eyes? And she just watching and then she's just going, well, people might. And I mean, she is a really straight up squared away amazing person. I mean, I feel so bad for her because she's an honest broker. Her husband's a Marine. He did recon. He trains cops on how to not get killed. I mean, he's really hardcore dude, and she's just like, man, all my peers, I just can't even talk to them. I don't know what's even going on. Yeah. And she's in a bad spot. I mean, she really is. And I just feel terrible about it. But anyway, she had him on and he just started to go into that whole trope. I saw the chat going off, and I guess I'm an evil person, but I was just laughing my ass off because people will say things on my show sometimes. I'm like, oh, Jesus. that shit's not going to go well. I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. I had a guy on. I'm not a fan of, so hopefully I don't piss off somebody.
You're not a fan of who? You cut out right when you said, I'm not a fan of...
Dude, I just lost sound. Hold on.
Uh-oh. I've got sound.
Shit.
We can hear you.
Okay. Well, that's good. Hold on. Now I'm hearing everything. Okay, sorry.
Okay, you're back?
Okay, got it.
All right. I miss... You cut out right when you said, I'm not a fan of X. What was X?
QAnon.
What
a weird coincidence.
Yeah, every time you
coincidence. Okay.
Every time you say it, it's getting weird.
Oh no shit. Actually, what's weird? I never heard of QAnon before January of last year.
Okay.
And somebody was in my chat talking, and I'm such a moron. I thought it was Kanan, like Cutter. I saw them talking.
It's one of those little countries on the map that I don't care about.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I was like, Kanan, what?
Someone says a wild Linwood has appeared. Linwood has entered the chat. What did you say?
Jesus, I don't even know where I was going to go with this. Damn it. Okay, so
you're saying sometimes people say something.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay,
right.
I had on a guest. I work with another company who does like some video work with me. They're really cool, and they recommended me the show, and it was kind of like exposing QAnon, and it was like one of the New York Times podcasts, or a bigger one. And they had an expert on, and this expert, now, okay, I'm going to tell you his name in a second, but I want to say that there are some last names that are probably not the best names in the world to be an anti-conspiracy theorist.
Oh,
okay?
God. Okay.
So this gentleman, and I'm going to say again, there are some last names that probably there's more than a little touch of irony.
Is it Clinton Rothschild?
No, it was Mike Rothschild. I kid you not. His last name was Rothschild. Anyway, and he was anti-QAnon, but then he kind of went for every left-wing anti-Trump trope at the same time. So
of course he did.
I was just like, oh, okay, never mind.
How many Bitcoins has he given Obama?
I have no idea, but he was a nice little subscribe drop. I'm just sitting there going, and I'm going, oh God, what are we gonna do? And there's the factor, you're like, just because I have somebody on the show does not mean I am necessarily fucking endorsing everything they say. Bring people in.
You gotta have more. Complete like whack jobs on the show. That's what you got to do. For me, I had this guy Shane on the show, and this is one of my most famous live streams I've ever done. It was this guy Shane, who after the show forever is known as Shoe Eater Shane.
What?
This is
okay.
This is this weird guy. It was during the Vic Mignogna lawsuit, like at the height of the Vic Mignogna stuff before the lawsuit. And he was on Twitter. It was a Saturday, and I don't normally do a show on Saturday. And so he's on Twitter, and he's telling me I'm wrong about something. And I was like, this is basic civil procedure, so I know I'm right on this. And so I said, well, hey, I'm not doing anything. If you want to talk about it, why don't we get on the show and talk about this? And I had legitimately 100% pure intentions to just say, hey, look, I know you're not a lawyer, and this is just how cases go. Like, this is how you start up a case. And it was something. It was very, very basic stuff about literally the start of a lawsuit, and stuff like that, and breach of contract. And so then, and tortious interference. And I had been doing a ton of research on tortious interference in Texas for a different case. So I was relatively well read on the subject, and I was like, this is kind of an obscure tort for a lot of people. They probably don't realize. So we'll get on, we'll have a nice conversation. I'll politely tell him. And even before the show, he's like, yeah, let's just have a friendly chat about it. I'm not going to like call your experience or credibility into question. 10 minutes in, he starts insulting me as like, he starts insulting my credibility as a lawyer. And so I said, okay. So then I take the gloves off, and we just have a drag out argument. It was brilliant. But what you got to do is you got to bring on some people and absolutely like just destroy them. That's what you got to do.
So I need flat earthers, you mean, or what?
Hey, wait, are you saying the earth is round? Are you some kind of globularist?
Hey, do you have an opening next week?
Where's the curvature?
You want to come on Thursday?
Where's the curvature? That's all I'm saying.
I need somebody next week. You want to come on?
I saw that Red Bull jump. I saw the Red Bull jump, and I looked down at the earth, and I didn't see a curve. Did you? You didn't see a curve. That was a NASA fake. How dare you?
You know what? Speaking of flat earthers, did you hear about the guy who fired himself in the rocket to make sure that the Earth actually was flat, and he died?
Yes, he hit the firmament. That's what happened.
No, apparently, it came out that he was like, yeah, I know that. He was just doing that shit for press.
Yeah. Oh wait, do he live?
Okay. No, he's dead.
Oh, he's dead.
But
okay.
the whole flat Earth angle was just to get people to pay attention when he was shooting off a rocket.
My chat is reminding me. Mikhail Johansson says, you once claimed the Earth was donut shaped. Are you going back on that now? No, Krispy Kreme Earth is best Earth. Krispy Kreme Earth is best Earth.
Is it a cruller or is it a straight up?
I don't know what is going on with this. We're talking about the flat
That's
Earth.
weird.
It's amazing. We get to Rothschild and flat Earth, and the stream goes down.
Okay, it looks like it's back on.
Yeah, we're back on.
Or you are.
We're back.
All right.
Flat Earth and Rothschild did it.
Okay, well, and we won't say Q too much either.
So anyway, the point of that is you gotta bring, like, I'll talk to just about anyone until they are there are very few people I will not have on my show.
Who?
And there's a guy named Mad Black, who I had great shows with Mad Black, really good, like 5 and 6 hour live streams with this guy, and then he went wacko and threatened to have my entire family and neighborhood murdered.
Okay.
So I don't know what was
odd.
going on, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to have this guy on again. Like, I went on a different show and talked to him about it, and that was the end of that. It's down again. Okay, it's back. Oh my god, stupid YouTube. So Mad Black I won't have on. There's this guy named Senpai is home that I won't have on because he felt like he was entitled to be on my show, which is a weird thing. And he got really mad at me because I said, I'll have you on, just pitch me a show idea. And then it became this like long discussion about how he should be able to come on my show anyway. And I was like, just pitch me a show idea. And so I won't have him on principle. I won't have this guy named JMK on because of a lot of weird stuff that involves his sister. And we're not going to talk about that. That's between him and her. And then that's about it, though. Like, most people I will have on.
So these are all personal things, not necessarily that they're just wacky or
No.
offensive anyway. It's that they personally are. There's a problem.
Yeah, you
between
have
them,
to-
which makes sense.
You have to have a specific beef with me that I feel is irreconcilable. And that, because it's like, okay, I think our personal issue would be too much to really get past to have a productive show. And I've never brought someone onto my show to like have a drag out, beat down argument with them. I would much rather discuss something, even if we disagree, right? I would much rather engage the person and get their opinion, because
Sure.
I think that's more productive. I don't actually bring people on to debate generally unless they're debating someone else. That's just not my thing. Now, things have turned into that, but that's always due to generally like when I determine the conversation can't be resolved otherwise. So,
But that's not the intent.
never. It's never the intent. Because I don't like doing it. I don't like engaging in that type of discussion. It's stressful. It's like I'm on YouTube.
Oh God, yes.
I'm on YouTube drinking liquor and making jokes. That's the farthest thing from life in that realm is stress. I don't want to
Right.
do that.
And you're not prepped for it. I mean, if you're going to debate somebody, you want to have your mental game up. You want to make sure you're not drinking. You want to make sure you're pretty on, I'm sure.
Oh no, I usually drink for the debates too.
Oh.
But that's
Oh,
strategic.
okay.
It's strategic, and I'll tell you why. And this is a good tactic. When you drink on camera, no one knows how much you've drank. They just see you drinking from time to time. And so people
I
tend
see.
to associate, every time they see the glass come up and come to your mouth, they almost think of that as like one shot. But I tend to take very small sips. So most shows, I don't exceed about 3 total drinks over the course of several hours. And so for a debate, I love to drink during debates because people think I'm getting hammered. And actually, I'm not. And so it kind of disarms them a little bit.
So you sandbag them.
Yeah, a bit. But again, I never go into a show intending to debate someone. That's not what
That
I
makes
want
sense.
to do. I just don't find it fun. And it's my show with my chat. They're not going to win the debate in any
Right.
like, it's a biased audience. What's the point of debating?
And your
right?
chat has a very distinct personality, which is very cool.
Yeah, and that was actually the funny part of the Shane episode was he told me several times during the chat that we were having that the chat agreed with him. Sorry, that the chat was on his side, and then Then we got to the super chats, and he left after about 8 of them. And he said,
guess so.
I'm not going to sit here and be made fun of." And I was like, "Okay, well, sorry." I read all of them either way. So it was good. But yeah, that was a fun one. But I got to talk to you why he's shoe eater Shane. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go.
In the background of this debate, where he's broadcasting like from his kitchen. He's in like a small apartment with a long sort of hallway style kitchen, and his computer is at one end of it. So you just see his kitchen behind him. 2 things happened during that were just legendarily great. The first is he literally got up and went to his fridge and poured a cup of soy milk. Because
the soy boy immediately comes out.
If the memeing wasn't already there, he hammered it home with the soy milk. But the other thing that was great is sitting behind him, and the resolution was a little bit fuzzy, so this didn't come out until a little bit later, was something on a cutting board. And it turned out it was a shoe. It was a shoe sitting on a cutting board on his counter. And I thought it was like a phone base or something, right? Or a blender bottom, because the resolution was like, it was terrible. And someone asked him on Kiwi Farms, they're like, "Why was there a shoe on the cutting board?" And he answered, he's like, "Well, because my dog ate the other one." It's like, wait, but that doesn't make sense. Why is there a shoe on a cutting
That's
board?
almost a non sequitur. Sorry.
What, so you were going to eat this one? That doesn't...
Well,
why do you have it?
like...
Oh, God. It was
Wow.
terrible. But anyway, yeah, you see, long story short, to prep your audience, you got to bring on some real winners. So they know that you'll have people on even if they're ridiculous.
It's hard with I've kind of designed myself into a corner, I guess. I'll bring you on a few more times. That'll settle it down. No.
No, because you bring on like truly interesting guests. And by the way, guys, Eric's show is in the description. If you're not subscribed, go check it out. Because you bring on some really interesting guests with lots of experience across vast fields. And I look at your guest list, I'm like, how does he find these people? This is everyone I talk to who's into anime. These people are like,
oh, there's it.
Designing.
Yeah, let's compare our audience sizes here. So,
but yeah, you guys gotta check Eric's show out, just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay, Versi says, "I joined this leftist stream on YouTube. They were just talking the general left points on violence. Then the next 20 minutes, they spent cheering this black lady punching a white woman in the face and encouraging it."
Well, some violence is acceptable.
How?
And it's not violence. That's a correction. It is not actually violence. Thank you. You're right. Yes, it is justice. It is not violence.
So that's
violence is for Confederate flags, and they don't have to leave the house, and they're committing violence.
Oh man, that
explain that flag.
That guy who brought the Confederate flag into the Capitol, he is, of all people in the Capitol, that's the last guy I would want to be. Oh my God. They're gonna make an example of that guy.
Him and zip ties.
Right.
He apparently picked him up.
That's what he says. Yeah, he got him from basically a Fed dropped him or whatever, so he grabbed him.
Which is possible. I don't know, but I look at that scenario and it is so confusing. It's like half the riders are between velvet ropes, and half of them are actually smashing windows. So I mean, it is this weird. Sam Harris. Now I know you're probably not a fan of his, but
I don't really. I don't care too much. I think his arguments about religion sound smart. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, if you want to, if anybody wants to suffer, listen to him and Jordan Peterson discuss the meaning of truth.
Oh God,
it's about 3 hours. It's excruciating.
Well, I think his truth is when you are at home and your room is clean and you are walking with your shoulders back and your eyes forward. Have you noticed that Jordan Peterson's thing about
Kermit's frog?
Yeah, well, there's that, but his advice to walk with your shoulders back, your head up, and your eyes forward. He doesn't do that.
No, well, Jordan Peterson, I don't want to hold against him because a lot of young men, especially, have gotten a lot out of him.
Yeah, he's
But
great.
Jordan Peterson is my dad. I'm just saying that Jordan Peterson is espousing something that I, as an Xer, I heard this shit growing up.
Well, I think that's
and
his
I'm like,
job,
something
right?
went wrong. Yeah, I feel like he is speaking to a lot of people, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I feel like things got so off the rails, with participation trophies and everything else that he's kind of just giving this old-fashioned advice that I heard from my freaking dad, my grandfather. I mean, I listened to him like, clean your room, God. Well, I didn't listen well when I was a kid, but I've
it's
heard
real
all of it.
though. It's real though.
Yeah.
Like, that's the crazy thing that we never listen to our parents, but you always listen to like an uncle or like a friend of your dad or whatever, because like they would have some sort. Like, you're like, yeah, but you're not my dad, and so therefore I trust you, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you have a wife now, right? I mean, I'm sure that you tell her things that somebody else tells her, and they're brilliant.
Yeah, when somebody else tells her, it's brilliant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've told her 20 times, but when somebody else tells her, it's like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
But and there's something to it. I don't know what it is. Maybe if we got Jordan on, he could explain. This is the thing. Jordan has his psychology, which I think is wholly different from his advice, because his advice is exactly what you said. This is a Gen X parent, a parent of a Gen Xer, not a Gen X person who becomes a parent.
Correct.
Is a parent of a Gen Xer. My parents, same thing. But the weird thing is, the advice seems so basic, like, oh, just clean your room, take a shower, right? But
it is, and it's effective. That's why it's actually effective, is because
if you're going to take...
It is basic. It's like, if you, before you go tell somebody else what to do, is your room clean? Is your shit straight? I have, and you talk about my guests, right? I have Chase Hughes on. Chase Hughes is like a high-powered guy who does full-blown mental manipulation of other people. He studied creating Manchurian candidates.
Right.
So really, really deep stuff. His big advice is everybody goes to him, it's like, Chase, how do I, warp somebody's mind or control them or whatever? He goes, first off, do you have your shit together? Because if you get a pile of dishes and clothes at your house, it's going to reek off you. And if you don't have your shit together, nobody's going to listen to you. Why? Because they may not see it, but they can feel it off of you, because that you're not squared away. So a lot of his advice is just be squared away. And, he's big into authority and all that. But
it's 100% right in my own life. And it's weird. It's making your reality. This is what it is. Because when my dishes are in the sink, right? When I've got a sink full of dishes, and I have 5 kids, right? So I have a sink full of dishes really quickly.
Continuously.
Right. But when I've got dishes in the sink, when I've got laundry on the couch, when I've got a room that isn't clean, I know that generally speaking, I'm in a frazzled state. I'm busy. I'm discoordinated, discombobulated, whatever it is. And I'm probably not in the best space to be addressing a bigger issue. But when I have the time, to address these things, then I am in a better headspace. And what Jordan Peterson's advice amounts to is make the time. Make the time to take care of these little things. And when you are in the place of taking care of these little things, then you're in the place of being able to better address bigger problems. And I think this boils down to the idea of decision fatigue, which I'm sure you're familiar with in some way, right?
Sure.
It's why
the paradox of choice is the same thing. Yeah.
Right. It's the same reason we see Tim Cook, and he always Steve Jobs, before he died, was always in the same outfit, because he just had 50 stupid black turtlenecks, 50 pairs of the same mom jeans, and then a pair of socks and his shoes. And because he didn't want to decide what to wear every day because he had other decisions to make. And this idea of like a uniform and decision fatigue it translates I would say in a linear or comparable way to the idea of if you make your reality by eliminating these small problems, you open your mind up to bigger problems.
Sure. And I'm going to jump on your Steve Jobs example. When he came back to Apple,
Yeah.
Apple was, in the gutter.
I mean, remember.
It was literally days from shutting down.
You know why I remember? My uncle.
You were cheering for it?
My uncle, no. My uncle who worked for Apple, I think it was my 18th birthday, maybe? It was one of my teenage birthdays. He gifted me 3 shares of Apple stock that were worth $100 total. Okay? That was my birthday present. And then within days, that stock plummeted. And he had to give me 7 more shares of Apple stock to make the gift worth $100.
I hope you still have them.
Nope. I wish I
move.
Terrible move.
Yeah, you do.
I sold them and bought a crappy compact Presario computer. But we're not going to talk about.
Oh, that's a brutal.
But no.
Okay. Well, Steve Jobs,
yeah.
When he came back, he looked at the entire line, and Apple was selling everything from printers to all kinds of shit, right?
Yeah.
And he stripped it down and he said, every product we have will fit on one table. And he eliminated everything. So you're right about the wardrobe, but he said, okay, we have the laptop and we have the desktop, and he literally wrote it on one whiteboard, like, here's every product we have. It all fits on one table. And that simplicity, as you well know, I mean, people think of the iPod and the iPhone and all that, but really the first thing that took them out the gate was the iMac.
Yeah.
Do you remember around the early '80s, late '90s, how every cell phone had the translucent blue and all that shit?
Oh, yeah.
Apple moved everybody because they came up with these colors and this friendliness design of computer, and it affected everybody and everything.
I had to sell Emachines at I was a Circuit City computer salesman. Okay. So
I remember Circuit City.
The iMac spinoff was the Emachine, which was like if you took an iMac and then took out the processor and put a McDonald's hamburger in it instead.
Yeah, it was a piece of garbage. Yeah.
So awful. We sold, and every Thanksgiving we would do the free, basically it was a free Emachine, right? After rebates. So you would buy this crappy Emachine for $500, and then you would get a rebate from Emachine, and then you get a second rebate from CompuServe.
I remember. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, that was what we did. God, it was awful, and I hated it. People would come up to me, they're like, I want the free computer. I'm like, no, you don't. You do not want this. You do not want 3 years of CompuServe, because let me tell you about ADSL. ADSL is on the horizon. Don't you dare buy this. And they're like, no, I want my CompuServe. I want to be locked into $22 a month for the rest of my life.
CompuServe sucked. I mean, AOL, as much as I'll curse it out, was better than CompuServe.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And Emachines were trash. Our service agreements at Circuit City. And now at Circuit City, we service the computers in store, right? As much as possible. And then we would send them off if they had to come back for warranty work. With Emachines, we literally threw them in the garbage and gave them a new one. That was the warranty on Emachines.
Here's an irony I just realized. Circuit City is out of Richmond, Virginia.
Yep.
And is out of business.
There's one left, I think.
Then they bought the name on the side. They're kind of like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Best Buy is out of Minnesota, I believe.
It is.
So you had to be very confused. And I do remember that Circuit City, which I actually preferred over Best Buy back in the day, pissed me off to no end because they decided, we're having financial problems. So we're going to fire all of our senior staff and hire everybody in at lower wages. Were you caught into that whole deal, or do you remember it?
I got out right let's see. I got out around that time, but I worked as a commission salesperson, and I was, I was among the wave of the last commission salespeople at Circuit City, and then
Mm,
they switched out, and that was about the time that I left, because you know, being out of commission sales is garbage. I didn't want to do it.
sure.
And so that's the transition period that I was. But Circuit City was fraught with fraud and gaming of their commission system. That was a big problem. And
Mm.
managers that I had later ended up getting arrested for gaming the
Oh,
commission.
nice.
Because if you were a manager,
Did you
only
study under them? Is that part of your last school? Oh, no, I'm
I
sorry,
did.
go
I
ahead.
did. This guy, Kyle Burdine, he got escorted out by security eventually. I don't know if he was actually arrested, but he probably should have been. So the thing with managers was they earned commission too on sales, but they only got half. They only got half of a commission. So the better plan was to do commission sales through another employee, and then
Right.
give them a kickback because they got the full amount. Kyle Burdine was allegedly engaged in that. Kyle was famous to me for telling me one time I was in high school, right? And he goes, "Nick, I hate you because you live with your parents and you are in high school and you have no incentive to make more money. So go out and get a girl pregnant immediately." That was,
Wow.
so you
Well,
have
it-
to,
you-
you have to make
Hold,
money.
hold on. You did follow his directions. You might have waited a little bit, but you've been working awfully hard on that, dude. How many
Yeah, it
kids
was-
now?
I have 5, but it was long after I was out of
Okay.
commission sales.
Yeah, okay, but I'm just saying that there was an influence.
Yeah. So he ended up, from what I heard, he ended up getting escorted out, I believe in handcuffs, because he was gaming the
Wow.
system. I had another store manager whose name was the Chad. And this is long before
Chad?
his
A
name.
title?
His
Okay.
name was Chad. I don't remember his last name. I wish I did, because I would find him immediately on social media. But he referred to himself as the Chad. He was great. He was the worst manager on the planet, but he was hilarious. And then I had another guy whose name was, I think his name was Mike Timler or Timlin, as a store manager. And I don't know what happened to him, but he left or whatever before all of the mess. But that place was that ended up being a weird dynamic. And we were a high performing store in Burnsville, Minnesota. But then, Circuit City went just tits up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I miss Circuit City. And so I saw in the chat a couple questions offhand. CompUSA. I remember CompUSA. Never care for CompUSA. I used to call it that. And I mean, it's okay, but it's like whatever. And somebody asked if I was in the Army. Yes, I was in the Army in the 90s.
Okay, there you go. Did you just do like the 2-year or 4-year? Or what'd you do?
I got a long, boring story. I joined the Army in the shittiest job that they had available, in the shittiest duty station they had available.
Okay.
So I just won on all counts, because when I joined, everybody talks about how patriotic everyone is. You're a soldier.
Yeah.
I was fucking hungry. And the good majority of people who join the Army are those who are like, I'm not making any money right now. I could really use a check, and you're going to
Sure.
give me money and education? Cool. So anyway, I joined. I was submitting freelance articles for the newspapers in the area. It was in Manhattan, Kansas, of all places, the Little Apple. And oddly enough, I got published, and I was competing against Kansas State University professors. But anyway, I had multiple articles in, and I went, oh, well, I'm going to go in the Army. They have journalists there, because I saw Full Metal Jacket. And I know that Joker was a journalist, so obviously I know everything. But I went to go in, and they said, oh, there's only 4 jobs available in the Army right now.
In all of
And I
the
said,
army, we've got 4
yes,
jobs.
exactly. And that's what I learned about things like, quotas and bonus babies and dumbasses. And I fall into the last category. But I said, well, I am writing for this. They're like, don't worry. When they see your talent, doesn't matter what you pick when you hit the duty station, you're going to be writing on the paper. And that actually was kind of true. But it was also completely false. And the key thing is that I joined the Army saying, well, then give me the one with the bonus because I'm broke and I have no money and I'll take the job that gives me a kickback.
Yeah.
Turns out that the government's not always retarded.
Oh. Okay.
Just mostly.
Usually,
But
yeah.
in the Army, if you're what you call a bonus baby at that time, this is in the 90s. Yes, I'm aging myself. That means that you cannot leave this job no matter how shitty it is and no matter what you can do or anything else. And if divine intervention from God, or in my case, colonels come in, it doesn't freaking matter. You are stuck until the end of hell because they gave you an extra shekel or two.
Okay.
So essentially, I became a cook, which, by the way, is an interesting position to be in. Because when you go into the Army, you take a test that's called the ASVAB.
Yeah.
And the ASVAB is sort of like it's a generalized state test. I mean, we all took tests for high school or SATs, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
And all they care about is a part of the test that's called a GT, the General Technical, which is like a kind of combination of math, English, problem solving, whatever. And how you do on the ASVAB and the GT determines on what you can do in the Army.
Okay.
So in theory, the better you do on the ASVAB and the GT, the better off you are. There's a small problem. If you go into the Army and let's say you pick a job or you sign up for a job and you fuck up,
Yeah.
they will reclass you as a cook. So I went straight in as a cook. Now, even though being a cook is known as a job for all the morons
Yeah.
and everything else in the Army, that doesn't mean it's always easy.
Sure.
Anybody here I challenge to create a recipe out of nowhere and always get it right. It can be challenging to cook a good meal. I promise, it's true.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing and you don't really like it. So I had this small problem.
If you're gonna be a cook, go to the Navy anyway. That's the better cook
Well,
job.
I guess. Ironically, in the Army, we actually did ice sculptures and shit.
Okay.
But I got assigned to Fort Irwin, California. So first thing, I got the worst job in the Army. Second thing, I got the worst duty station in the Army. Fort Irwin is next to Death Valley, and it hits 120 plus degrees by 10 a.m. It is the high desert, and you have to be high to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And even worse, the housing is so short that you have to live 30 plus miles away from the base outline, but it's actually 50 miles. What they did, though, was they moved the gate because some assholes figured out the accounting. They bought a little piece of land on the road going out to the base. So that way it wasn't far enough and they didn't have to pay you extra pay from how far you had to travel in. So anyway, the government's not always stupid, dude. That's what I'm telling you.
Wait, you had
Okay,
ice sculptures in Death Valley, though?
Yes, we did. Oh, dude, it was insane. But
I love the Army.
Oh, you will love it even more. Anyway, so then when I reported at a duty station, my ASVAB tests came about. And I had a first sergeant. The first sergeant, everybody talks about the captain as sir and sir, yes, sir, all that shit. But it's really the NCOs that are the big,
right.
Big dicks.
Yep.
And the first sergeant's the top big dick in the company. Well, he's a smart dude, etc. I got introduced as this. They call first sergeants Top. Hey, Top. And I got to hear, hey, Top, this guy's GT score is higher than yours.
Uh-oh.
That was my introduction to my duty station. at the worst duty station in the Army, essentially. And so then when I reported to the kitchen, my job, I don't know what I'm doing, no matter what it is you need training, but I got to hear this. You have the GT, you figure it out.
Yeah, that sounds my one of my relatives is his like he turned in his test and they got the results and the guy looked at him and said, "You must be the smartest motherfucker in Minnesota."
Not if he's in the Army.
So,
anyway.
So yeah, he had the same issues.
Dude, it was ugly. Now, ironically, the same guy who said that you have the GT, you figure it out. Later on, ironically, so it's like there's good and there's bad. There's all kinds of shitstorm swirl in this, but he is the one who recommended me for sergeant. And the reason was that because he knew I hated the job and I hated everything around me more than anybody he'd ever seen on this planet. But I still did the job and I showed up every day and I worked as hard as anybody else. So it's this weird, confusing, bit. But it was so fucking awful that I volunteered to invade Haiti under Clinton. And I wound up in Cuba taking care of migrants. And that was the best time in there.
Oh my God.
Ironically, though, I did learn from all this shitstorm. So then I get back to Fort Irwin from Cuba, get a couple medals, everything's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
I've got a problem. If I re-up or I get out, now when you're in the Army, the first thing they tell you is that you're worthless and that nobody on the outside's ever going to want you or anything else. So you need to re-up because let's face it, we care about you.
Yeah.
Everybody else, so you're stupid. But
I believe it.
Well, and I knew that I kind of was stupid and I probably wasn't going to get on the outside. So I needed to re-up to just kind of get things figured out because I was in the middle of a hellhole and a hellhole job. So it's like, what the hell do I do? If I re-up, I can choose one thing, either a new MOS, which is a job, or a new duty station.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of was talking to different people and I found out that there was this job called cargo specialist, 88 Hotel.
That sounds awful already.
Oh, it's a suck job. Who cares? But anyway, this is the part where I learned to game the system. And I learned how it works.
Cargo specialist.
The job is to load ships. And it is actually a big deal and there's value, right? But there was only 2 duty stations in the whole country that had this job. So by picking this job, I was guaranteed to get the fuck out of the surface of the hell duty station.
Right.
And I mean surface of the hell like heat, like consider your condition with running, and that would be you stepping out your front door. And the shittiest job in the world. So I wound up at Fort Eustis, Virginia for training. And there was also Fort Story, which is nicknamed Camp Story.
Okay.
Because it was on the beach. Because it was a chill, laid-back location. Now there's seals there and stuff, but whatever. It wasn't my problem. And I learned from this that...
I love this chat. It's from Jav. He says, "Oh God, he got assigned to lead Cargonia."
Nice.
Oh.
Anyway, so when I was here, yes, Fort Useless. Somebody got it. Exactly. And I was training there. And because I was prior service and all that, and I made the cutoff, whatever, I decided I moved into the south side in the area, and that's where I live right now, actually. We have Virginia Beach on one side. We have a bridge tunnel, and then Newport News on the other. Fort Eustis is by Newport News. Well, I lived in Norfolk, which is on the south side, other side of the tunnel. And I drove into training. And so then I talked to the people involved. They were like, "Oh, well, you already live on that other side. We'll go ahead and put you at Fort Story." So this is where I started to learn the gaming. First, to pick a new job that can only be in a certain place. and then to live on that same side. Then I went up for a story. When I wound up there, I did one job on a ship, maid sergeant, and then I never worked in the job in my entire career from then on. I was a quote training NCO, and I
Sure.
trained people how to sham the system.
There you go. There you go.
So that's my Army experience. It is a different one, but it was kind of fun because I was kind of a dick because I could run back then, and I was a smoker. And for some reason, I could motivate people to do better on their PT tests running when I would smoke a cigarette and run backwards.
Yeah. That's weird.
Like I said, I was kind of a dick.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the military fascinates me. It seems like just a wild ongoing exercise of the Peter principle.
It can be, but that's
Yeah.
that's not government. It can be Peter Principle. It can be otherwise. It's just any kind of bureaucracy.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's somebody. Bad vibes is at NTC.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
we'll get to that one.
That was me.
Ace Brain 2003 says the YouTube blue censorship box has evolved into a context box. Saw it on a QAnon related vid, and it shows the first sentence from the QAnon wiki page, which conveniently describes it as a disproven far right conspiracy theory. Seems ripe for abuse by YouTube. Oh yeah, YouTube is cracking down. Look, if you are a YouTube
Sure.
content creator, let me tell you right now. Avoid anything related to voting and fraud. Just avoid it. Avoid it.
For sure.
That's my advice to you. Alien Wolf says there's a proposed regulation by the OCC, Office of the Comptroller of Currency, called Fair Access to Financial Services that might help with the choke point problem if it works as intended. It's slated for April 1st if it doesn't get killed by the incoming admin. Yes, and this is a very important piece of regulation. And I did a video on it when they a little while back in December.
I have a problem with that though.
What is
April 1st?
Yeah, April 1st, but it's legitimate. It's been out since before that. But I guess it could get axed by Biden. But this is an interesting thing. So banking services were able to cut off entire categories of people, like pornographers, for example. They'd say, well, we won't do banking services to pornographers. Even if...
Oh, that's what happened to Pornhub, right? And they had problems with all their people getting paid?
Pornhub got hit for...
that was something else. Sorry, dude.
For minors.
Okay.
Pornhub got hit by the Washington Post hit piece. I don't know if it was actually Washington Post, but that's the new thing. And so what'll happen is some journalist will get tipped off by some idiot on Twitter, and then they'll go on a rabbit hole hunt, and they'll go like this. Here's how it goes. It's time to talk about the problem with X. And they'll post it as an opinion piece on Washington Post or some other publication that's major like that. And what they did was they said that these particular search terms that they somehow figured out how to use returned images that were illicit of minors. So let's not ask the question about why the journalist was searching for illicit material containing minors on a major pornographic website.
That was a public service, Nick.
But yeah, they're just doing it for research purposes only, as always, right? But that's what they did. And so Pornhub ended up removing all of their content that was not from a verified uploader, is basically how that worked. So Pornhub has a couple different categories of account, and one of them is like a verified uploader because they have content creators like YouTube does, for example. And then they have major studios who will upload things. So those things are all still there. But anything from a non-verified creator, they blocked and took down anything because what they were trying to do, was prevent the upcoming storm from MasterCard. Like I said, if Parler beats Amazon, Parler then goes to war with the banks. and it's MasterCard
Sure.
specifically and payment processing that will shut them down. And they've done it. They've done it to everybody, and they're itching for a big target to do.
Well, that's what bothers me is that Subscribestar went through it, and it's like, are you not paying attention to what Gavin and all these went through? I mean, should you not be finding whatever payment processor or whatever it is that you can use?
Well, you know how Subscribestar went through it, right? They just
fill me in.
So Patreon, this is related to Sargon, right? Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin.
Yeah. Him and Lauren Southern.
Right.
Patreon
Patreon kicked them off and said, nope, the banks, they didn't say it, but the implication was the banks said no to them. And so they couldn't be on the platform anymore. So they went to Subscribestar, and what they found was that they were not allowed to participate in, they were allowed to be on Subscribestar, but not to use the payment processors on Subscribestar.
Which essentially killed the whole point.
Right. Yeah. So Subscribestar effectively, they allowed them to have accounts, but they couldn't go through those payment processors the same way that they were on Patreon. So it was effectively the same thing. But the banks will take them out. But the Office of Comptroller of Currency said that individuals must be removed with a justifiable individual risk assessment. Now, for someone like Sargon, they could credibly make an assessment that Sargon is somehow risky, but they're supposed to limit it to things like credit score. So we'll see how they actually do it. It is a positive step. It's a great regulatory change if they do it, because it is regulating banks in a way that promotes the use of the service, which is weird. Nova Zero says, amusing for lawyers to talk out of depth. Cost of starting up was always high. Cloud computing made it affordable. With AWS being idiots, you'll see a reversion. This will stall AWS growth internationally. What do you think about that? Do you think Amazon Web Services is going to slow down after Parler?
I think that any startup, especially if they're publicly traded, that has a half a brain or a board of directors that are paying attention will say they don't want their services, or at least a decisive amount of their services, on AWS, because Amazon has effectively said that your company, your business is not safe. I don't care whatever reason they put out. They just flat out proved that at their whim, they will shut down an entire company. And I think there's a fiscal responsibility for any company out there to say, we can't put our stuff there. Because, who knows what could happen. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that Amazon could shut them down. Amazon has proven that they will shut people down. It only takes one. And let me ask you, let's say you have a plumbing company and you have the back end. Even though you're not putting any kind of tweets or anything else, will you use AWS?
No, I won't.
Because it could be shut down. So, never mind the Twitter, never mind the free speech, never mind anything else.
Right.
AWS just shut them down.
Yep.
They didn't give any recourse. They didn't give any time. They didn't allow it to any other server. And they, watching Viva Fry, I think he had a good point. They said they, quote, suspended the account. And what's the difference? If you can't do anything, your business is suspended, so you're dead.
Yeah, that was an interesting distinction, and is based on their Section 6 suspension versus Section 7 termination. But Section 7 allows them to terminate immediately anyone that they could otherwise suspend, which is it's a
distinction without a difference.
Right, and it obviates the 30-day notice. And I think if the court is honest, although it won't matter because they're old, if the court is honest, they should look at that and read it against Amazon and say, this is ridiculous. You can't say that you're going to give 30 days notice, but then due to some legal wizardry, have a way to not give any notice if you so choose.
It's actually, to me, not that confusing, because you can draw an analogy or a parallel to this is a storefront and they just lost their lease. The landlord just chained their doors shut and customers cannot go inside and they cannot conduct any kind of business. I think there's a direct analogy here. You could say, no, you're supposed to give a 30-day eviction notice because that's essentially what they're doing. They're saying,
Right.
we are evicting you from our servers.
Yep.
But they have not given that time for the company to actually go hire the movers to pick up all their stuff and move to another location. And I think that on that very small basis, never mind everything else, that basis alone, they should get their temporary restraining order.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, because to me, that's the weirdest point of the whole thing, and that's why I hate this judge for being so old, is obviously Amazon is not going to be hurt by being forced by court order to host Parler for 30 days or during the pendency of the action. Whereas if they're not ordered to do it, Parler is literally dead. So the tip of equities goes far in Parler's favor, and it's one of the it's one of the most disingenuous arguments. Now, I'm not critical of Amazon's attorneys for making it; they have to, but it was a disingenuous argument. Yeah. It was stupid. Okay, let's see. We've got bad vibes. I think no,
dude. While you're doing that, I have got to run to the restroom. I am not disciplined like you.
You need to get into 3 and 4 hour live streams. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm 2.5 hours into one. I'll see you in a moment.
Yeah, no, I'll see you in a minute. All right. Mr. Obi-Wan 2020 says, ancient judges and legislators are the reason we are in this mess. I'm considering primarying Murkowski in 2022. We need people familiar with this issue in order to fix it. Guys, I don't have a catheter. I don't wear diapers. What are you talking about? Like a proper interneter, I just pee all over the floor in my room and deal with the smell. Bad Vibe says, what I think laws and courts need to address measurable harm in the actual activity, including the actual imminent attempt. Hey Y'all says, Apple and Google services are likely to try to quell an emergency announcement the president may put out through the emergency broadcast system in the next coming days via automatic phone updates to suppress the EBS thoughts. I'm going to bring that up when Eric is back on. I have heard that. I heard it from Lynn Wood. I don't know. Oh, excuse me. I don't know if that's actually accurate or not. But I'll bring it up to him and see what he thinks. Empty 2-liter bottles that you filled up by the dozen. Guys, by this point in the stream, you think I can aim into a 2-liter bottle? That's disgusting. Bad Vibe says, imagine tabloids and individuals not being able to discuss Area 51 or speculate on monitoring communications like keywords and phone calls. Yeah, that's where we're going. If the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania has his way. Marty Lund says Twitter and Facebook, although he corrected that to Instagram and Facebook, bent the knee, reactivated Trump's account. RIP the trend of thousands of plebs banned to make sure nobody is allowed to agree with him on Twitter, though. But his Twitter is still down. But if Instagram and Facebook have brought him back, you know what? Like, despite for all of the bad shit that they do, that is a good move on Facebook's part. Twitter should bring back Donald Trump too. They really should. Bad Vibes also says, Eric. Oh, this is for Eric. Damn it. I gotta wait. Mithrin Emra says, careful with that talk, comrade. I'll have to report you for double plus ungoodly thought so Big Tech Brother can have you properly unpersoned. In other news, final 7 hours of law school this semester. Get it, son. I am so happy to be a part of your law school journey. By the way, guys, let me do 2 things while Eric is gone. If you're still here, The live stream replays are going to be very soon moved off of this channel. They will be included on a separate channel called Ricada Archive. Ricada Archive, it exists. You can subscribe to it now if you want. The second channel or the third channel technically will be for the live stream archives. They will be off of this channel. The live streams will still happen here. They will be removed from this channel and uploaded to an archive channel. This is what Nerdrotic and other people do. Be prepared if you are a listener who does not participate in the live show or you like to go back to them. They will be there because it completely ruins the algorithm, or as YouTube calls it, search and discovery, to have the live streams and short content on the same channel. That's just how it goes. But anyway, so Eric, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. I feel much better.
I'm glad you do. I do have a super chat specifically for you here. This is from Bad Vibes. He says, Eric, I was in Irwin 1998 at the NTC. Lots of critters. But watch out for the scorpions. Had a near miss. Soldier next to me got stung and went into anaphylactic shock. Ooh.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Arizona, I grew up in Arizona, and the scorpions there are actually poisonous. Not everywhere are scorpions deadly. Fort Irwin also had the benefit of the Mojave Rattler. Arizona had it too. And the Mojave Rattler had the courtesy. You have two types of venom. You have neurotoxin and hemotoxin. Neurotoxin will like freeze your body and, seize up your heart and you die, like a cobra, casual stuff.
Yep.
And then a hemotoxin is, nice and friendly, and it melts your muscles inside and rots your core. So it's kind of like you turn into a zombie or decay from the inside without the brain. The Mojave Rattler is a unique concoction where they actually have both.
Oh, God.
In one snake.
Sounds like a nightmare snake.
It kind of is. And the problem with the Mojave, too, is they're very aggressive, very territorial. So most rattlers, I never thought I'd say it, but when I was at Fort Irwin, I ran across a sidewinder.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cute. I felt sorry for it. Because everybody's sort of toying with it. And honestly, most of them are just trying to get the hell away.
Right.
And I'm sorry, soldiers can be kind of morons. So they're like, oh, what's that? And the poor thing was getting away and all that. The Mojave will actually chase a Humvee. They're so aggressive that they will go after you, and you better get your ass on the truck and be like getting the hell out of there. Psycho stuff. But yeah. And who was it? Bad Vibes? Ask him about moon dust.
Ask him about moon dust?
Yep. Or I'm asking about moon dust.
All right.
Moon dust is crazy. It's when you jump out of a truck, you've had dust before, right? And you step down and dust kind of goes up. Moon dust it's a super fine dust. It's almost like the consistency of a talcum powder.
Yeah.
Out there because it's so dry. So like when you jump out of a truck, it actually is a cloud that comes up around you. And all of us as soldiers pretty much had just caked on brown on our faces, and our teeth were just shiny white because of the grit.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. It was crazy.
Yeah, Jason Alator says moon dust sunk a gun truck. Oh, what a mess. Bad Vibe says, at least the snake warns you. Just don't screw with the wildlife. $15,000 fine. So.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy stuff.
It's crazy shit.
Apparently, Facebook and Instagram have reinstated Donald Trump's account, by the way.
Okay.
But
for
not,
what, a week?
Not Twitter. Yeah, he's back for now. We'll see. Who knows? Bad Vibe says, I had a tanker's bath in it. It was nuts.
Must be moon dust.
Yeah,
cool.
That's what he's talking about.
It's crazy. And I mean, it's so hard to describe how it was out there because, it's kind of like I walked up, to school in the snow uphill both ways. But
Right.
it was literally damn near like that. I was a cook and I would work in the field at Fort Irwin. It was 120 degrees at noon, or 10 o'clock actually before then. And I worked on something that's called the MKT. An MKT is a mobile kitchen trailer.
Mm-hmm.
In order to cook the food, we had gasoline stoves. And I mean, literally, is gasoline that was put inside the stove. It wasn't kerosene. It was fucking gasoline. You light the shit up, it can go boom. Okay.
Oh my God.
And we had six gasoline stoves. And keep in mind that these stoves were not like a small little campfire Coleman burner. They were about 2 feet wide by 3.5 feet long, with a gasoline burner that covered the entire top.
Sure.
So fire. 6 of those on a trailer at 120 degrees. We worked 5-minute shifts because it was 180 plus degrees on the trailer.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So good times.
That's not.
Don't miss it.
Okay, I have a question for you, and then after this question,
sir, yes, sir.
I'm gonna just read the rest of the super chats, and then we can wrap up the show.
Sold.
What do you think of the idea that social media? This is an idea I've been talking about lately. Social media purposefully engineers an addictive product. Do you agree with that statement?
It's a fact.
Right.
None
okay.
of the CEOs or higher company officers let their children on it for just that reason.
Right. So they knowingly engineer a product that is addictive.
Yeah, it's like heroin. Yeah, they create heroin essentially.
Does that make it exceptionally egregious when they remove people from it, even for temporary suspensions?
I think there could be a case made. I don't know if you could draw the parallel or not, but sure. I mean, if a doctor prescribes you to pain medication that is Oxy or something like that, do they not have a liability if you have a withdrawal symptom? Do they also have a liability when the same social network causes suicides? Which I question. And by the way, taking away may cause that suicide. So there are actual genuine ramifications to withdrawal or to even usage of it. So yeah, I do think there is a question of liability in my mind as a dumbass consumer.
Well, because that's the thing that I've been going with recently is just like, I don't know if there's a legal case on it, but the thought that these companies are creating a system that is addictive, they know it's addictive, it's engineered to make you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea comes from Trump being back on Facebook and Instagram. Someone said he should just flip them the bird and close his accounts. And I think that was the big thing with Parler. I think that's why Parler was such a target, was the idea that people were leaving Twitter and going to Parler.
Oh, yeah. Because they lose that business. I mean,
it's not
the
business.
They don't want them to have a home. They don't want them to have a home.
I don't think it's the business. I think it's the punishment. Because I think it's, look, if your only home is Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and then you say the wrong thing, we can condition you by punishing you. We can ban you for...
It's both. It's both. You still need the eyeballs. You still need the business. So I'm saying it is punishment or punitive because you don't want these bastards to go somewhere else and feel warm and fuzzy. But you also don't want to lose their business. So it's kind of both, because what is the point? I mean, Twitter was in dire straits before Trump came on.
Yeah. But Twitter was also willing to ban 70,000 QAnon related accounts the other day. I don't think they care about like an individual banning as far as business goes. And I think we have to get past this idea that these companies care about a bottom line, because we've seen banks, social media companies, we've seen Amazon.
Well, I'm hoping their board does. Hold on, we're only at stage 1. I'm praying that their boards do.
I don't think they do.
I mean, have you not read? I don't know that, because we've seen Get Woke, Go Broke. How much have you heard that?
I've heard Get Woke, Go Broke a lot.
Let's talk about ESPN.
I've never seen it from a board.
Well, the board is ultimately who says your shit is losing money. our shareholders don't have any money. So we've got to give it a little time. And I guess that's kind of what I'm hoping for in the end is the go broke angle of it. It's like, yeah, you're going nutty, you're doing all this crazy shit, but holy cow, if you're not meeting your quarterly results and you can only pad that and fake that so long,
Yeah.
your ass is going to hit the road, Jack Dorsey. And he has been replaced. He and Dick Costello, I think, have gone back and forth and back. I mean, Twitter's not been a super comfortable place. That's
Right.
part of the reason I think that Zuckerberg and put the Facebook and Instagram is the same company.
Yep.
So putting Trump back on, that's Zuckerberg. He's not stupid. He
Yeah.
can think of a lot of things, but he's not dumb. And it's all about money.
All right. So I lied. There's another chat that I read while you were gone that I want to address here. He says, Apple and Google services are likely to quell an emergency announcement that the president may put out through the emergency broadcast system in the next coming days via automatic phone updates to suppress the EBS. Any thoughts? Have you heard about this idea? I haven't given it much credibility, but the idea is that Apple was going to disable the emergency broadcast system through an update is the one on that I saw. And I think it's related to the idea that Trump will deploy the military in favor of the election.
It sounds like the Insurrection Act that everybody's talking about him calling. And
yeah.
Honestly, I don't think he's going to do it. And you know what? I pray he doesn't do it because any goodwill I have for him will be gone. If he actually does that and tries to stay in through a dictator move, then it's gone. I could support the fight in every which way, but if it comes to the whole, we're using the government and the military to lock down the country, then sorry, you just became a dictator. Can't do it. I don't see Apple doing it per se. I don't see any of that happening. I see that as a paranoid delusion of people who hate Trump and everything about him. I don't see that happening.
That's what I came to with the Insurrection Act and other things is like, I want Trump to fight too, but I think even Trump realizes how problematic it would be to try and win through a military act.
Then you are Hitler.
Yeah, it's a mess. I don't think that's I don't want to live in America where a president can deploy the military to keep himself in office, even if I think he should still be in office. Like that's
the thing is, I mean, I hate to say it to a lot of people, and I know people are upset, but
yeah,
I'd rather he loses and goes home completely. Now, every direction in that over that. I'm sorry, that is a monstrous act. Okay. That's too far. I just can't do it.
Yeah, that's where I worry about that. So, okay, Bad Vibe says, can we apply the same standards to Twitter and free speech in the same way that businesses built on speech must provide service? And because 230 exists, they must provide and cannot self-police. 230 doesn't have anything to do with that. I think people,
230 is a problem because it's not clear.
Right. I think 230 has been read into people as, well, they have some duty to do this. But 230 isn't an obligation. It's just merely an invitation. And I think if we start looking at 230 that way, where you can take the invitation for the shield, but you don't have any obligation to do what is required for the shield, that is the key. And 230, like you said, it's a problem because it's unclear, but it's not a problem that forces business to do something. It's because they can't do it. Okay. 6th Floor Madness. No, Mario Carter 13 says, if we aren't on the brink of Gamergate 2, explain why Ted Cruz was blessed by the Dorito Pope. Did you see this?
No.
So a news story ran that Ted Cruz was wearing a QAnon pin on his suit.
Oh, God.
And they had to print a retraction because it was a Dorito chip.
Oh, God. Why is it always Ted Cruz? I mean, first he's the Zodiac killer. Then his father killed Kennedy.
Both of those
and
are true.
And now we have this. Well, I mean, poor Ted. I mean, he's he's got his father. He's a Green River. Oh, not a Green River. Sorry. Whoops, wrong serial killer. Zodiac killer. He's got his father who killed Kennedy, and now he's QAnon. We need to leave Ted alone.
Oh, the
Jeez.
retraction was fake news? Wait, so what's the true story? So is the true story there was nothing on his suit? Like, what is the true story? Someone let me know.
Who knows?
6
Well,
more.
speaking of bullshit, did you see that about Rittenhouse?
Yeah, the bond changes.
They're trying to change it because he flashed the OK sign
Yes.
as a hate crime to keep. Sorry, I didn't know if you had talked about that, but
I did.
That to me that's even worse than Ted Cruz's Dorito pins, because it's like, holy shit, this guy. I mean, that's a self-defense case if I've ever seen it.
Yes.
And then that.
However, did you see his attorneys are agreeing to it, which I think is the right move.
What?
So his attorneys are accepting the bond modifications, which are no alcohol, and then the other the other bond modification is no use of racist symbols and no association with quote unquote known hate groups. And so the reason I say this is the right move is because, one, there's no acknowledgement that the OK sign is a known racist symbol. So
right.
they can use that as a pretext. Oh, we saw him flashing this symbol as a pretext to request some modification. All right. Now, the thing that the prosecutor is trying to do is to inject race into the case when it doesn't exist. It's a white guy who shot 3 white guys. Like that.
Right.
Where's the racism there? So they're trying to inject it because they know that will play better, or they think that that'll play better in court or whatever. So they're trying to inject the racism. So the worst thing, in my opinion, that Kyle Rittenhouse can do is accept the premise that the OK sign needs to be argued as racist, and that he definitely wants to have contact with groups like the Proud Boys. And the easier and better fight, even though it's ridiculous, is for him and his attorney to say, this is fine because my client isn't a racist, so we have no objection.
So he's not going to do it anyway. Yeah, he's too young to buy alcohol, right? So
yeah, and his consumption of alcohol at the bar was 100% legal in Wisconsin. He is 18, but he was with his parent, his mother, and in Wisconsin, if you're with a parent, you can consume an alcoholic beverage if you're 18, which is
damn. I grew up in the wrong state.
God bless Wisconsin for that. But the key thing to remember is that when you're fighting for your life, and that's what Kyle Rittenhouse is doing, it's not your job to fight the culture war. And you really don't want to get bogged down in these stupid little tiffs. That's a matter of degree. Like, well, Kyle Rittenhouse wants to talk to the Proud Boys. But if Kyle Rittenhouse doesn't actually want to talk to the Proud Boys, rather than trying to argue on behalf of them that they're not racist, it's much better for Kyle to say he has no intention of talking to these people at all. Cut the argument out of the discussion, and I think that is as a defense attorney with a candidate with a client who is fighting for their literal life, that is the better play. But it is.
I didn't know about this, so thank you. I didn't know this side.
It's absolutely a stupid thing that the prosecutors are doing. But his defense team said, yeah, we accept it. For one, he doesn't talk to any known hate groups. He doesn't have any intention to talk to any hate groups. And he doesn't use racist symbols because he's not a racist. Therefore, we have no problem with it. And that is a great thing. So now if they try and come back and they say there's a picture of him going okay or whatever, and they bring that into court, they can say, Your Honor, we agreed not to use racist symbols. The OK sign is okay. It is not a racist symbol. And let
and then show Obama using it and everybody else.
Right. Let a prosecutor try and make a case before a judge that a kid needs to be put in jail for doing this, and let them be ridiculous at that point. And that's way different.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. If I were his defense attorney, I would have taken the exact same path. So
Well, you know more than I do. I mean, so thank you. I mean, I was just like, that's retarded.
it is. That's the hard part about talking about it, is because it is absolutely retarded. But it's also, for Kyle, it's the right decision.
Makes sense.
But Sixth Floor Madness says, a new D&D adventure book, Candlekeep Mysteries, includes Wizards of the Coast's first official wheelchair-accessible dungeon. Last year, they released a supplement for first-level characters that included the combat wheelchair. None of what I just said was a joke.
I'm glad that we went through caves and structures and said, hey, in this deep, dank cave, we need to put a ramp in here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nature, screw you.
They can kill a dragon, but they're defeated by a 9-inch curb. It's over.
It's about time that we straighten that out.
Yeah.
No more curbs. More dragons, less curbs.
Mario Carter 13 says, normies, with Trump out of office, at least everything will finally get back to normal. Democrats, the American flag is a hate symbol associated with domestic terror groups.
I really do think if you're in the Howard Zinn school, you believe that. To your soul.
Yeah. Flandre Scarlett says he won't shill his services, but if you want to run an alt tech, you need to privately talk to Joshua Connor Moon. He can tell you every dirty trick they will play on you and how to fight it. It's even possible, if it's even possible to do so. Yep, he's effectively kept the Kiwi farms alive for all this time. Mario Carter 13 says you aren't allowed to lie on social media, and yet it's filled with politicians. Anthony James says, wash your penis, chat. Darth Vader says, the rumors about me are false and that whore Padme is a liar. I am not, in fact, the father. I totally pulled out early on that one. If anything, it's that shady Obi-Wan that knocked her up. I'm just 6'7", a black, trying to make an honest living in my hood.
Accidentally just the tip?
Yeah. Reese1 says, Nick, you don't have to read this aloud if you don't want to, but this has to be said regardless of consequences. Democrats don't have security details. Yep, we're going to stop that one right there. Thank you, Reese1, for your donation. I will not finish that chat or the safety of all involved. Kermit the Frog says, you kiss my cheek only to finger my ass. Speak before I carve out your fucking tongue. That shit fuck beckons me to the city only to spurn me in a thin-waisted whore. Once again, the gods spread the cheeks and ram cock and fucking ass. What are you talking about, Kermit? Oh my god. Reese
Nick Ricada voiceover RS.
Reese1 says, doesn't non-sitting impeachment let Democrat impeach future presidential candidate because legal precedent and reasons, regardless of legality? You said it in your video. It's politically not necessary, legal, and remember, tell the truth and shame the devil. Yeah, so the idea behind the impeachment is not to remove Trump because he'll be out of office, but the idea is to try and get the removal, then follow that up with the preventing him from running for further office. That's the...
Dershowitz talked about that, and it's just kind of... By the time they get to it, they're now prosecuting a private citizen that is not in office.
Yes.
So it's a very weird scenario. So, and Dershowitz, I don't know if you saw him with Barnes the other night, but...
No, I need to watch it.
You should. He was like, well, why don't they just impeach me? Because you could prevent me from running for office. And he's got a good vote. So you and I, Congress go after us and impeach us. We're private citizens and we can't run for office. It gets a little silly.
It is silly, but the minor flaw in his thinking is that Trump is impeached at this point. Like, the impeachment is when the House votes on it. Removal is the Senate trial. So
right.
He is accused of the crime, and so it's in one hand, I agree that it is like going after a private citizen, and in court.
But you're removing him from an office he's already removed from. So It's like, unless they get their act together and do it before he gets out, my argument is that if it's after January 20th, How do you remove somebody that's removed from something?
If Roberts has a shred of integrity left,
Well, we're screwed.
We're screwed, I know, but if he has a shred of it, the attorney for Trump will move for dismissal because it's moot, because he's already out of office. And if Roberts has a shred of dignity left, he will grant that dismissal as the presiding judge. And then if the Senate wants to go ahead and vote on Donald Trump after not hearing anything because it's dismissed, let them do it. Let them do it. That's my take.
It's just so weird.
I have no faith in Roberts to do it, but in any other court case, this would be dismissed because they'd go, "There's no injury. He's out of office. It's done."
And you can't punish him. And you can't say remove him from office that he's already out of. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
this is all revenge.
100%. It's to punish Trump, and I've said it in several videos now, for having the audacity to beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. That's the punishment.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, this is not like...
it's also being gauche. The honest truth is that Trump is gauche. Yeah. He's like the new rich to the old rich. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, he's Rosie O'Donnell in Titanic.
Yeah.
But no, it's that, but it's... I genuinely think the mainstream media is trying to paint this as they're mad at Trump now. Like, oh my God, after the Capitol riots, we really got to get this guy out of office. They've been mad at him for 4 straight years. This isn't new.
They promised to impeach him day one. Literally promised to impeach. It wasn't even day one. I think they might have promised it before he stepped in office.
Wasn't Rosie O'Donnell in Titanic? Was it Kathy Bates? Oh, they're both old and... No,
well, Kathy Bates is talented.
She can be talented. She's still older and larger, so I mix them up.
Well, no. I know, but she's talented.
I liked her in Misery. I like her in which one?
Oh, she's hella good.
I like her in American Horror Story. Don't get me wrong. I like Kathy Bates just fine. I don't like her in the movie where she's naked, though.
Well, that's injury, right?
Yeah. Cerno Trollopolis says removing a president after they leave office will cause a null pointer exception and crash the U.S. code. Good job crashing the law, dummies.
They're headed there.
AGK says, with Orwellian nightmare that we're tap dancing into, truth and reconciliation is too long a phrase for the newspeak that's walking up to our doorstep. AOC, just rename it to something concise that we all know you want, Pravda. So did you see AOC's suggestion that a Truth and Reconciliation Commission is coming for the media?
Who McCarthy Jr.?
Yeah. Well, McCarthy's daughter or whatever. The second. Women can't be juniors.
Well, okay. McCarthy amplified. Will that work?
There you go.
McCarthy times 2. Yeah.
I'm trying.
I saw it and I just can't. She's been worried about lists for a while. Her and the squad are very concerned about lists.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to properly make the video for the new Red Scare and the new McCarthy. Because that's what's going on. It's like right now, the question in Congress and in the courts is, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Trump party? Like that's what it is.
And, well, you got it. You got the video. Wait, I guess here's the problem is that, and I'm frustrated by it because people hate Trump so much that TDS has them blinded.
Yeah.
And I almost want to say, like just put Obama in place or somebody else in place and then take every element of it. The person says blah, 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 blah against blah, 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 blah. And then just say Obama. And they'll be like, what? Or let's say Bush. Let's say somebody, whatever. Pick anybody but Trump. And then you get them heated up.
Needs his day. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Jeb, poor Jeb. Come on. Trump destroyed Jeb. How about little Marco?
No, Jeb.
He's at least still walking and squatting.
Jeb was destroyed by Bush Jr., by GW. Because he was the smart one. The last thing I wanted on earth was was another Bush v. Clinton. I didn't want it. It was like we were so close to just a tribute to dynastic control over the United States with Bush v. Clinton again. I would have hated
Well,
it.
here's the sad thing is that W jumped ahead of Jeb. Jeb was the smart one.
Yeah, but W's the likable one.
Okay. Well, how's that working?
Yeah, well,
you got the plagiarist in chief right now.
Look, but see, everybody would have a beer with GW. No one would have a beer with Jeb.
That's true.
Because
no,
Jeb would drink a wine cooler while you're drinking a beer.
Bartles and Jeb.
Okay, Gelth Walker says, for the chat, Futas, balls or no balls? Come on now, guys. Come on. Breck Nichols says, this is in honor of Eric. I am a hophead in Dallas, Texas. Double IPA means 8% alcohol. Respect. Samurai.
Cheers.
Samurai says, I am an ex-friend of a guy that got arrested in New York, Edward Florea, based on his Parler comments. Did he incite? What do you think? Do you think someone can... I know you're not a lawyer, but do you think someone can meet the legal definition of incitement by a post on social media?
Yes. But you got to be very specific. I mean, if I say, fill in the blank, go beat up John Smith, and I don't know anybody named John Smith, I have to be fucking scared of anybody. But if I say, go to John Smith's house at 2 a.m., the alarm code is this, and go beat him up, I just incited, right? I'm not there.
Maybe. I don't know. That's the hard part.
That's
right?
a call to action in my mind. I mean, I'm very specific, and it's a call to action. That is a call to action. And if I dox, that makes it even more so.
Yeah.
And I admit that I'm adding, elements in there to make it convenient. Sure. But you had a video earlier talking about Dickhead Sullivan, and you're right. He stood by and said, hey, burn that shit down. Hey, go jump over that wall. Hey, go do this. That's incitement. He didn't do it. He said, hey, go do it.
But he's there. The crowd is there. And he's like, burn this down, right? Like that thing there.
Okay, so what if we're on a live stream right now and I have my phone in my hand and we're doing a Facebook Live and you're like, hey, Eric, dude, you see that window over there? Smash that fucking window. Did you incite me? Okay, if you agree that you did, then now we're on the internet. Now we've crossed it over because I'm not even physically there.
Right. Well, see, this is my point about courts being so far behind, because in Brandenburg, right? Brandenburg is the kind of lead case on incitement.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was that even though there's a mob of people and people saying, we need to go hang this ethnicity.
Sure.
There are none of them around, right? So the court's like, well, they can't incite them because they can't reasonably expect that they'll go do it. If you make a post to
if you were very specific, and you say that, hey,
like,
that
let's
MLK
go to this
march,
address and do it,
or this particular event, and they are around, because you're right, Brandenburg is kind of general. You're saying kill all, fill in the blank.
Right.
What does that mean? They're not here, whatever. Everybody should blah blah. But now if you say it's Black Friday and kill all the mothers, now you just got a little more specific. They're going to be out the store at the sale. I'm just saying. So no, I do think it's.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm trying to I don't know how to noodle through this with the law as it is, because if I post something to social media, I have to ask a question like, who reasonably expects someone to go, oh, I see this guy's social media post, I'm going to go murder X. Like
I think it's clarity and direction. Like,
yeah,
if I can take your direction.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically commit an act on a particular person or individual, it's now crossed the line.
Yeah.
If it's generalized to where I could be confused, it's less so. So if you say, hey, go kill fill in the blank group. Smokers. I hate. Let's go with smokers. Let's be
Nobody
safe,
likes
okay?
them anyway.
Exactly. There you go. So all smokers should be shot.
We got incitement. I got to shut it down. Shut it down.
Exactly. That's really kind of vague. It doesn't, whatever. That's just a statement. That's kind of hyperbole, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm going to go with John Smith again, and I'm sorry, John Smith's out there. It's a generic
like
name.
4 John Smiths are getting murdered tonight because
okay,
of you.
John Q. Public. If I say, when John Q. Public goes out of his break room, you need to put a bullet between his eyes. I just got a little more specific, didn't I? And
It's
the break
more
room is a
specific.
specific location.
It's still
And it's almost an explicit order.
It's still the imminent danger test is the part that just doesn't jive to me with social media. Because it's like, I have to expect them to read a tweet, and then I have to expect them to then take the instruction and carry it out at a later date. And I don't know the answer, right? I'm not like...
I don't either, but I'm just trying to think, in terms of details, because I guess my test would be, what if they did it? So let's say that John Q. Public is now lying dead in a pool of blood, and I see a lot of people saying I'm wrong. That's cool. Go for it. If John Q. Public is now laying outside of the break room with a pool of blood because a bullet struck him from the building next door.
Yeah.
And I saw this tweet, and the person who tweeted it, or maybe they did a video, and the person who shot is a super chatter, and they're donating money. I'm starting to say there's a case here, right? Because there's an influence from the one person to the other. So I don't know, at what degree it is, but I think that if you are with specificity, you have possibility. And maybe I'm just saying that the closer you get to a call of action, because that's a call of action in my mind.
Yeah. If
I say everybody should hang that smokes, it's kind of like that.
It's an interesting proposition, I think, because that's always the case with threats of violence and incitement. Is there an imminent? Would a reasonable person imminently or expect that the receiver of the message is imminently going to carry it out? Is that their intention? And I don't know if that's the right standard going with the internet, because if that's the case, I think it's really hard to suggest, unless you are sending it to a person that you know is in the location to carry it out, that you could do that, that thing. But anyway, it's just a thought exercise. What's the dealio? Says, screw all this highbrow crap. I like Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Very good.
Oh God, that one was way back.
Yeah, these are from the beginning. So what I do
How do you collect this shit?
I read Streamlabs chats that come in through Streamlabs first, and then I go back to the YouTube chats when I do them at the end.
But how do you go back? Do you capture them somehow?
YouTube Studio keeps them all in order. I'll have to show you how to do this.
Yes, you will, because I have been in some chats, and I'm nowhere near as popular as you. But occasionally I get like Viva and Barnes, and they're popular, or I'll get you're popular. So yeah, you get help.
Yeah, it's YouTube Studio. There's another thing you can use. Are you familiar with If This Then That?
Yes.
You can actually tie If This Then That to your YouTube super chats, and
Are you kidding me?
It creates.
Dude, I paid for that shit for a year.
It creates in your Google Drive an Excel spreadsheet of literally every super chat you receive.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
we're gonna be talking.
Yeah, we can do it. My YouTube guy taught me all sorts of cool stuff that I need to implement. You can do If This Then That to have, when you receive a super chat, to have like lights, like Philips Hue lights, like flash at you and stuff.
Dude, that's cool. No, that's awesome. No. Just keeping track of this shit, because
yeah.
No,
Uh,
I've already, folks, just so you understand, I've talked to Nick on the side saying, I don't get how to do Streamlabs. I only do Streamlabs. Now, here's the irony. I actually am a web programmer.
and I'm just a
But
jackass.
I don't. I actually get lost when there's layers of abstraction. So if it's a matter of writing HTML code or JavaScript or whatever, I can write that code and I understand it. But when you have other tools in the path, I get confused as hell. Like, wait, I click this to do that, and I do that to do there, and I'm a complete moron.
By the way, guys, we're
So,
5 likes away from 1,000 likes. At 1,000 likes, I drink this shot of Jefferson's Ocean. So that's up to you guys. I'm just saying.
well, dude, hit like. I'll drink a sip of Smart Mouth.
Winter says you should try to get Dr. David Jacobs on for an interview to discuss alien abductions. He's one of the few people who seriously studied them. That sounds interesting.
Speaking of doctors, I know you're not a fan of cops. Do you want a cop, former cop, who is well, you may know him. I don't know. Dr. Michael Wood. He has been on Rogan and everybody else. He's a Baltimore cop who came out during the Freddie Gray time period and was kind of the poster boy for BLM and everybody else. And now he's tempered things and been like, no, I'm not saying that cops are racist. I'm saying that actions that are racist come out of the society that drives cops.
Okay.
And so he's hated by all of them.
Oh,
But
perfect.
he is a PhD, studied business to figure out police procedure and whatever else. He's a contrarian, big time. So he's very combative,
Sure.
brilliant guy, but he might be really good for your show because I know you have issues about cops and all that. He is very quick to talk about what they can do when they're stopping and not stopping and what's good and not good. And
I would love to collaborate with cops in general on things because I think what's missing is like because a lot of them can't talk because their departments won't let them.
Sure.
But I think what's missing is, okay, I can give you my perspective as a lawyer on what to do during a traffic stop. What can you give me as your perspective as a cop? Those types of questions. And then I want to get into bigger questions for his PhD brain on things like, have you heard of the 5%, 50%? I mean, I know people talk about 1350, but 5% of the crime, or no, 50% of the crime comes from 5% of city blocks in metro areas. Have you heard about this?
Probably, but I don't. I don't study it that deeply. That's why I was throwing it out there. And actually, I guess you could come on my channel and do it or whatever. But I wanted to throw his name in there because I know that I have a feeling you probably get on with him.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to talk to him because Malcolm Gladwell talks about these studies that were done in the 70s and have continued on, and basically.
Oh, speaking of that, lead poisoning is one of his big things too. So
lead poisoning, like from bullets.
No. Oh, okay. Well, we're running long, but it's actually been proven. Have you read Freakonomics?
No. That sounds terrible to me.
Okay, Freakonomics is they talked about the principle. You know how
I'm familiar with the book. I just haven't read it.
Okay, the crime plummeted down to very little in the 90s compared to what it was.
Yeah.
Freakonomics' thesis was that it was abortion. Okay. That unwanted criminals were aborted.
Right.
Essentially.
Yep.
The other thesis that has come out in more recent, I see here they're coming in.
Belongs in trash. Yeah, get it. Book burning.
There we go. I'm not endorsing, even though it is an entertaining book and well written. More recent studies have blamed lead poisoning. And when I say lead poisoning, this is an ageist thing, sorry, but I remember leaded gasoline.
Right.
And in the urban centers where they had heavy amounts of leaded gasoline, when they switched to unleaded and took it out, it was almost a perfect parallel or correlation to the crime drop. And lead has been proven to remove, I forget the term for it, but it's essentially,
Inhibition.
you have moderators in your brain on don't do this, do that. Well, lead tamps that down. And he's a big believer in the whole lead. He goes, further on to lead paint and stuff like that. And if you look at it, some of the biggest crime areas also have lead paint and different other things that aren't good. So that's what that's about. The lead poisoning, there is a lot of science behind it that says, hey, there may be something there. So I'm not going to bash it. I only brought up the impulse control. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the chat too. I only brought up Freakonomics and I knew that people were going to be pissed out of the group, but whatever.
I like this
Still
one.
interesting.
Lead does cure crime. True. Oh no.
Well, yeah.
No,
And
so
was
the
it Gary something or another? Not Ridgway. Is it Gary
Ploosh.
Ridgway? Ploosh?
Gary Plausch or whatever.
Yeah, from Utah, first execution after Supreme Court.
No, I'm talking about someone else. I'm talking about Gary Plausch, the guy who killed the molester of his child or whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, there's Gary, one of the first executions after the Supreme Court.
I covered it. I don't remember his name, but yeah.
Yeah, it's Gary something. But anyway, he elected to be killed by firing squad, and he was.
Yeah, good job. No, I bring up the 5% 50 thing is an interesting. Gladwell talked about it on his podcast, which is a great podcast, by the way.
Revisionist history.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But he talked about this where basically we almost got to proactive policing in a proper way, and then they completely screwed it up because bureaucracy does that. But they did studies where they found out that 50% of violent crime in major metropolitan areas across the entire earth, it's the same statistic. Between 5 and 6% of city blocks are responsible for half of the violent crime. And
well, that's 80-20. That's the Pareto principle.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that what they found was if they policed those blocks, the crime didn't migrate to other blocks.
Oh, okay.
That's the trick. That's the difference. Is that, and it's largely due to lack of economic mobility in those city blocks
because they can't afford to move, so they've got to suck it up and.
So the crime just doesn't move, and so they're able to eliminate a significant amount of crime if they police these blocks. But due to things like racial profiling and stuff like that, they get accused of that on these city blocks, even though it's block-based. They say it's race-based. So what they did was, instead of doing proactive policing on these city blocks, they applied proactive policing everywhere, which had no measured effect because they weren't able to concentrate it where the crime was.
Sure.
But the effect that you and I feel is we get pulled over for garbage. Like, we get pulled over for a taillight or speeding when they're actually looking for drugs and guns. Because this was the whole, pull someone over for a petty crime. Its origins are looking for a major crime in a neighborhood where that is likely to occur. And they were very...
What's the other broken window theory?
Right. Yeah, exactly. The idea... And it weirdly correlates. I'm thinking to me, if I'm a drug runner in a car, my car is in perfect shape all the time. And I'm driving below the speed limit. But that's not how it actually works out. Turns out that drug dealers and drug runners drive above the speed limit and disproportionately have broken taillights and don't use turn signals. So
because they don't think it's kind of that slippery slope. But if you're really not worried about the overall law, you're not worried about the little shit either. It's almost like a hubris that goes with it. So yeah, that's that. That's a Rudy Giuliani, New York crackdown principle, which also was argued, by the way, with the lead inhalation and stuff. So there's so much crazy.
And the Rudy crackdown is tough, right? Because stop and frisk did wonders in New York. It really worked, But the problem was stop and frisk disproportionately targeted, and they showed this, that not just by, like, that it disproportionately targeted African Americans. It just did.
It did crime. Where crime was. Where was crime prevalent?
Well, listen, we're not talking about that. We're talking about...
I mean, but by the way, that is why Dr. Wood, he is in trouble, because he will say that disproportionately affected where crime was, and crime was fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Pick your poison. And it is a reality.
It is. And our inability to confront that, one, it cripples criminal enforcement. And then two, it adds enforcement to people who otherwise shouldn't really be bothered. Like, if you're in the middle of the country and someone has a broken taillight, it's generally not a big deal. Like if you're just on a rural road.
Sure.
But they're applying the principle of, look, if you have a broken taillight in the middle of Harlem, maybe you're running. Well, I don't know if Harlem's a proper neighborhood anymore because I think they gentrified it, but whatever.
Well, there's that.
Whatever neighborhood in South Chicago, there's likely a gun in the car. They're two different things. All right. Anyway, way too much time on this. Hearn1 says Jim Sterling raid. DK Me gives a thumbs up. Thank you. Talix001 says fringe because only people on the right go, not because they aren't open to all. The left can attack as far right, then no ad revenue, which kills hope for growth. Talking about places like Parler. And there's a million hit pieces that accompany the rise of any new alt platform. And I would love, in like a perfect world, we would find out if Twitter actually funded those articles, right?
They don't have to.
They don't have to, but
that's the problem, is that you don't have, I mean, Scott Adams, I've criticized him too, but he is right on a lot of things. All you have to do is set up the premise, get an agreement on, punch Hitler in the face or, whatever it is. And then people do it on their own. You don't have to do it. And you can have the same effects as if you were speaking in everybody's ear.
Super Iron Bob says ad revenue is a cancer that causes social networks to die, but it's the only way to attract people to social networks because people don't want to pay for Twitter when they can do Twitter for free.
Sure.
It's the problem. David Bowser says, what is the possibility of all these social media companies being banned, all grouping up for a class action antitrust suit? I mean, they don't need to group up for them. They just need to keep bringing them. Parler brought one. I don't think they argued the Sherman Act very well because it's hard to prove. But they've got to keep trying.
Their biggest concern is the TRO. They can work on the other later, but they've got to get online.
Yeah, that's what I've said in all my analysis is they really want the court to issue the TRO, get them online, because then they can move off of Amazon but still be alive while they do it.
Then they can have leisure to talk about Sherman and everything else. But right now, they're just dead.
I honestly think they'd drop the case if they got back online. Like they would drag it out. They would drag out the case reasonably until they got to another provider. And then the second they were ready to go on another provider, they'd drop the case and fold it because there's no reason to carry it on. They're not going to win a monetary award.
And the Mercers don't give a shit. They're already billionaires.
David Bowser says, what is the possible... Oh, wait, I read that one. Satanic Potato says, people have goldfish memories. The right have never been for free speech. They only want free speech when they're not in power. Then they censor mud degeneracy, same crap. Remember the 80s, anyone? Yes, and that's a problem.
Yes.
That's why I don't like Gab. That's the main reason I don't like Gab is Andrew Torba is not just, he's puritanical on pornography, and I don't want porn on Gab. Like, I don't care, but he blocks people and kicks them off of Gab when they bring it up. And it's like, Torba, you can't be for free speech, but against this. Like
some speech is more free than others.
Yeah.
That's George.
JM says, I expect governments or corporations to seize control of DNS servers and web certifications. With these, they can deter normies from private websites. I hope they don't. Anime Moon says, something I'm figuring out is how to use Raspberry Pi clusters to essentially make $500 shoebox servers from your closet that are equivalent to $5,000 standard servers. We should all do that.
Maybe.
I have no idea what that means. I mean, I know what a Raspberry Pi is, but I don't know, like...
It's just distributed server.
Is that what I was talking about before? Like where everybody just has like a little server in their house that contributes to the web in some way?
Sure.
Yeah. CJ says, why hasn't anyone used the FCC as a bludgeon yet? Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, competence.
Darth Legend says, is there a chance that states get involved and set up a law similar to Poland's? I feel like there is little to no chance the federal government does anything. Okay, so the background of this is, I don't know if you saw, but Poland proposed that they would fine any social media network a significant amount of money if they banned any Polish people. Did you see that?
I did not, but all I could think is, as you say it, is social networks saying, okay, we'll shut down in Poland.
Yeah. Or try and enforce it.
Because it's kind of a who cares.
Try and enforce it against a company that's not based there would be tough.
Right.
But no, the difference, though, is in states, that would probably be seen as an impediment to interstate commerce, and Congress has authority, states don't.
Sure.
So, and Musid says banks would get their charters revoked and assets seized. I don't know that they would. And even if they had their charters revoked,
Poland.
even if the banks had their charters revoked for refusing government access, seizing their assets would be a big step. The government can't do that without compensating them for the assets they would seize. If the assets they seize are money, that's a Fifth Amendment taking. A company is not obligated to contract with the government. I think the government is legitimately scared of the banking system. Commandant VHS says, I think the government once tried to create a postal bank. They might have. I don't know. Tony Neve says, is it possible for ISPs to cut off the banks or payment processors? Yes. Say they won't allow MasterCard or Visa to transmit payment. ISP versus bank standoff? Yeah, they could, but the banks would win. Because the banks have the money and they would cut them off right back. Vassal Park says, I'm not a millennial, I'm Gen Y. Talix001 says, age groups of millennial, X, and boomers. Do you know the age groups? Well, millennials, from what I've seen, go up to like 81, 82, or 80, depending on who's doing the thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that millennials are called Gen Y because Gen Z, I think, is your younger audience.
Yeah, I have no idea what the age cutoffs are, and they differ from talker to talker. Talix001 says, not a millennial, boomer, or X. I'm a smooth pimp who loves the putty, and Tubby here is my black manservant. Okay. Perfect Kakistocracy says, will insurance companies deplatform Trumpers? Denying auto and homeowners insurance would stop Trumpers from driving and owning property. Legal recourse. I don't want to think about that, personally. I guess in theory they could. DK Me says, thanks, guys. Got to run. Good night, everyone. Hey, good night. Angry Baneling says, Warhammer is less than StarCraft. Debate me, bro. I dare you. What do you think, Warhammer or StarCraft?
You choose. I have no fucking idea.
Warhammer wins. Good job. Mario Carter.
All right.
Mario Carter says, Q's plan was to get you effed in the A in prison. Batgoat says, it's been a long time since I've thought about this. Money for Save Shane's Share Fund. Yes. Matthias says, Nick, I'm sorry for this. This is off topic. But how much would you say you drink on an average drinking night? Typically it's 3 drinks. I think tonight I'm at 4. But typically it's 3. So
I'm stressing him out. I apologize.
And I typically only drink on shows. Like, people think I drink all the time. I largely don't drink off of YouTube. Austin Heartless says, we'll all be sent off to the gulags if you don't clean your room. Dr. T says, my brother was stationed at Fort Irwin too. Leave it to the army to stick a ginger in the desert for 4 years. Karn says, ouch. On Jordan Peterson, he explains why those obvious truths work via the evolution of psychology. Kind of highlights the importance of strong basics, that his kind of advice breakdown is needed for many people. Yes. I don't have criticisms of Jordan's approach. Tony Neve says, my grandpa on my stepmom's side was a military cook, like back during, I think, Nam or Korea. He could cook some great food. Do you still cook to this day? Are you still a cook?
Fuck no. I wasn't not a cook then either.
The Big Red Bear sent a donation, then retracted it. He also said that pee comment was surprisingly more disgusting to me than I would have thought.
How do you retract it? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you can somehow retract them. I don't know how. The Physicality channel says, did Eric run out of breath walking from the bathroom? Damn. I don't know. Did you? I think it's because your mic is picking up your breathing.
Oh, sorry.
That's the downside of a lapel mic.
I put it in the wrong spot.
It picks up everything.
I don't know. Am I panting?
You were.
Okay.
I ordered an RE20 mic and cloud lifter the other day, so I'm looking forward to that coming in.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
Rolana 1 says, so how quickly would you think the court would rule on Parler's emergency injunction request? Maybe in the next, maybe Tuesday, since Monday's Martin Luther King Day. The John Beck says, made addictive, classify as controlled substance. Please God, no. No, the Controlled Substances Act is one of the worst things on the planet. Jack Beaver says, Eric, what's your favorite Hampton Roads restaurant? Not resort. I want to find new places out here and support who I can.
Surf Rider, if you like seafood, probably be a good choice.
There you go. Bad Vibe says, now there is an interesting point. Disability access. Does Twitter have to provide access to mute and blind individuals? How about Android? Not yet, but probably soon. Painful Buggery says, DM, you see a perfectly angled ramp for wheelchairs. Wheelchair PC. I feel so accepted. DM, roll save versus trapdoor slide trap with disadvantage. Oh, God.
Wow.
Nya says, I'd agree Trump shouldn't go full dictator, if not for Biden making all appearances of doing the same. If we must have a dictator, I prefer Trump. Cal Clay says, come on, guys, let's bankrupt Twitter and Facebook by getting our friends and anyone we know to deactivate accounts until big tech fucks right off and learns. I don't think we can do it. That's my problem with the boycott. I don't think we can do it. Austin Hartless says, invoking the Insurrection Act is an inherently authoritarian and dictatorial act. Anyone who thinks it's a good idea needs to check themselves. Gelth Walker says, question to Eric from the chat. Blame a typo. Oh, so I'm supposed to ask you on your futas, do you prefer balls or no balls?
What? I have zero context whatsoever, dude.
I hate doing this. So Futanari, are you familiar with anime, good sir?
I've heard of it. It's drawing stuff.
There's a concept in anime called Futanari, and that would be a lady character with a giant penis. So the question to you would be...
So is this trans anime? A trans anime?
Look, I don't know. It's just a lady character with a giant penis, okay? And so the question is, do you prefer your lady with a giant penis to have balls or no balls? I hate you, chat.
This is like a no-win scenario.
No, there's the correct answer, and I know it. But
I'm going to say balls, but I don't know.
Yes! Balls, gang, rise up. It's got to have balls. It has to. Okay, thank you.
Why?
Because if it didn't, it'd be weird, right?
Versus a lady penis. Okay, well, fine. We'll move on.
Just accept the answer. Anime Moon says, but you know someone beat it to that scene. Stop. Calculate says, remember election night? You were like a prom girl. Yeah, that was not election night. That was the second debate stream. I was hammered out of my mind. As Scipio says, dear God, the Parler CEO looks just like Nick. Yeah, John Matsey or whatever, that guy needs to get sued for stealing my image. Cal Clay says, remember, please don't mute the song this time, you boomer. I won't have the song because I have a guest. Perfect Kakistocracy says, I don't want to think about that. Isn't an answer, Nick. Come on, give us your best guess. Oh, shit. What did I say that to? I don't remember. Oh, will insurance companies deplatform Trumpers? I don't think so. And here's why I don't think so. Insurance companies basically predate the United States government. They're the oldest financial institutions on the planet. And I think they see the long game better than literally every other company. And they know that deplatforming Trump supporters or refusing access to them would ultimately be bad for their bottom lines. And if there is one institution, and it's not banks, that is ruthlessly pro-money, it is insurance companies.
Yeah, go figure.
Angry Baneling says, Warhammer wins. Trump, wrong, fake news. And Angry Baneling says, you badgered him to say, balls, I declare mistrial. And then...
Oh, shit, you're through.
We're almost there. I got a couple more from Streamlabs. Oh, my God. Where is this? Let's see. Hold on. We're almost... I got to figure out which one it was. The Pie Baker says, AOC, there was something similar to what you proposed. You can just bring it back. It was called the Ananurbe? Ananurbe? I don't know what that is. Rise1 says, Nick, consequences if Cruz put literal peach beside AOC Mike without saying a word. Have you heard Biden is going to be impeached by a junior Republican on day one? Article will be filed on 21st. Razorfist said it best. Trump impeached twice and still president. What a guy. Yeah, Biden won't be impeached, though. They'll file articles, but the House will not vote to impeach Biden until the Republicans...
They don't have the votes.
Right.
Sure.
You don't have the votes. Bad Vibe says, wait, who controls the FDIC? The FDIC is a government organization that has nothing to do with the insurance company.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is he talking about the Fed? Because the Fed is private.
The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, which is the federal program that supports bank deposit accounts, which is not an insurance company. That's a federal.
So who's on Jasper Island? That's the Fed themselves. That's the there's that weird private public transfer.
The Fed is weird. It's like 12 privately owned banks that guarantee
Maybe that's
the
what
money
he's talking about.
No, he's talking about the FDIC. FDIC insurance on your deposit accounts. But that's not an insurance company. That's the federal government. Fuck Big Tech says, fuck YouTube. One way to fuck them over is to encourage people to use uBlock, Origin, or browsers to block ads. Spreads this around. Also install NewPipe via F-Droid. If you have Android, it's much better than YouTube. I can't encourage people to do that. That's against YouTube's
you might
terms
earn
of
money
service.
from ads.
It's against YouTube's terms of service, and they were actually taking people down for encouraging ad block. I'm not joking.
Okay.
So,
well, yeah. Why not?
Unfortunately, I can't, but you can. Fuck Big Tech. Mario Kart 13 says, would an IRL streamer receiving a text-to-speech chat with the N-word while they're walking through Compton qualify as incitement, using our hypothetical? No.
Stupidity.
Yes.
Not incitement, but probably stupidity.
If you're walking anywhere with text-to-speech on, you should be gassed. Rise1 says, Todd Howard 2024 candidate, selling America to us on the promise of America will have 16 times the resources, 16 times the value, 16 times the number of jobs created, because America would be so broken and the idea needs to be sold back to the regular people. Okay. Todd Howard's the creator of Skyrim, if you're not familiar. And
the game?
Yeah. Which has been... Do you know about Skyrim, like, and how many versions of it there are?
No, I've heard of the game Skyrim. I think I even own it somewhere, but...
You probably do, because it's like
PlayStation game.
Yeah, it's like 12 years old, but they have sold it on every iteration of platform in the past 12 years. There is a Skyrim on Alexa. If you go...
a verbal Skyrim?
Yes, if you go Alexa play Skyrim, you can play a verbal Skyrim with Alexa. It's that stupid.
Wow.
But yeah, it's everywhere. Okay, Law Nerd 007 says, please in Kermit voice sing the Hot Girl Bummer anthem tune. Fuck you. I don't know this tune. Fuck you and you. Oh, wait. Fuck you and you and you. I hate your friends and they hate me too. I need to get this through the conservative witch hunt. Or I need this to get through the conservative witch hunt. I don't know the tune, man. Calculates says, according to PayPal, last year I spent over $800 in super chats. Think I need to enter rehab. Already canceling my premium YouTube. Gonna go prostitute for Trump as a paid distraction while Trump flies to North Korea since extradition don't work and Democrats won't go get him.
God, that'd be awful.
Cerno Trollopolis says, we need to create 2 new startups to replace Parler. Piracy has stayed alive through the Hydra method, and the pirates even have every government after them. I mean, if illegal sites like the Pirate Bay can stay online, legal sites should be able to. And he also says, people want to call porn digital heroin. Imagine if they tried to ban porn using the Controlled Substances Act if obscenity laws are ever overturned. Yeah, porn is nowhere near as addictive as social media. And then finally, 2 more. Sorry. DCV Titan says there's no chicks with dicks, just dudes with tits. And Bad Dragonite says, how long till criticizing banks gets you called ist? Bankist? Racist? I don't know. Hey, man, that's the show we got. Did you want to say anything to the chat? It's been a long one.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to keep you all night.
No,
Cool,
no, it's
check
been
out the
great.
channel.
It's been great. I've thoroughly Can you stay for just a second after we close out? Because I like to say goodbye in private. Guys, check out Eric Hunley in the chat. He has amazing, or in the description, he has amazing guests all the time. People that you would not expect anybody on YouTube to be able to get to do interviews. He gets them on with regularity. Lots of experts and great subjects. And he is a great student of his subjects. And he always asks good questions. Way better than I am at interviewing. Check him out immediately. One more chat from Phoenix Lord Asserman says, remember, Nick, Ulfric is just a Thalmor pawn and you are doing the elves' bidding for fighting a war for the illusion of freedom. You stop it, sir. You stop it. Yes, I will be on Twitch after this for a little bit. So come join me at Twitch. We're going to watch Do or Die by Andy Sedaris. It'll be a lot of breasts and violence. So it'll be perfect. Thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. We will see you. I'll see you on Twitch. And if you're not there, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Thanks, guys. Check out Eric's channel. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. Peace.